So we're going to be doing a little recap on success principles. If you've been to our classes before, you've probably heard us talk a little bit about the success principles and the main colors in order to create some success in your life. So we're gonna graze over some of that. Repetition is how we learn, and we want to make sure that any newcomers that are on board are able to get up to speed before we take you to the next steps. We're going to be doing personal training on your weaker color muscles. We're going to be doing color-coded connection to energy medicine. Susanne will be going over more of those details. We're going to be bridging the gap between alternative and conventional viewpoints, mastering authenticity through education-based selling, which I think is what a lot of people are here for. How do I reach my customers? And, a lot of people say, I'm not a salesperson, or they don't want to come across as a used car salesman type. So, how do you come across, how do you achieve the sales success that you are desiring without those negative connotations that are attached to it?
And just so you know, we're not salespeople.
No, we're
educators.
Exactly. So, and then we're going to be going over some customer loyalty incentives. And then at the very end, we've got a free chakra balancing workshop that we're giving away for free. It's a $49 value, and that's at the very end. So if you stick with us to the end, we will be drawing a name for that for everybody who's registered today. So let's start. I'm going to pass it over to you. Introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you.
Well, absolutely. So I have been with Color Energy a little longer than Danielle.
A little bit.
A little bit. 30 years. So I figure after 30 years, I know something about color. And my background is that I've always been an entrepreneur. And in Vancouver, I was the youngest president of the largest small business organization. That goes back to 1984, not to predate myself, but I was a young whippersnapper and we had over 300 members. My job was to help incubate small businesses. So if you wonder why I know things about starting a business and running a business, it's because this has been my life since my mid-20s. And then, of course, I got involved with Color Energy where I felt home. And this is where I know I'm meant to be, is to teach people about color and how to be successful with color. And on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Danielle.
Yeah. So my background, I'm going to go a little bit longer here because it's not just coming into my background, but then I'm going to take you right through some of these success principles because my background has been in sales. I've been in retail for many, many years, and I was managing a couple of different cosmetic departments for Shoppers Drug Mart. I worked in London Drugs for a period of time, and then I also went to PharmaSave, and I was actually managing 2 PharmaSaves simultaneously, and I opened up one of the locations. And a lot of people that would come into my stores would say that, this is like a little boutique, like it's not just like your average little drugstore. We had jewelry and all sorts of different accessories and purses, and it was really like running my own little store within the store. And I had sort of the free reins to be able to go ahead and do what I wanted within the store. When the business first opened, my very first day of sales was higher than the highest day of sales that they had ever had at the PharmaSave. The first PharmaSave that I'd worked at was the highest. My first day was their highest day sales that they'd ever had in the cosmetic department. And I thought, oh my gosh, just wait until I can bring some things in here that I can actually sell, because I was just basically selling, the meat and potatoes of which they had in the company. So, fast forward, I've been hungry for knowledge. I've been somebody who has been very self-taught on all sorts of different inspirational programs and self-development programs. Like probably many of you, we've kind of gone down, the rabbit hole of, learning. I say it's the university of the streets, right? So, so I've been very self-taught in many of these areas. And with all of these audio CDs that I would list as CDs, because now I'm dating myself, right? So, the CDs, that I used to listen to at the time, and the CD books, and you've probably heard me reference this before, but one of the audios that I had listened to was by Jack Canfield, and it was his 108 Success Principles. And I remember thinking, like, how am I going to even remember like 3 or 4 of these things, let alone 108? And, it was great information information, and you have to listen to it multiple times to be able to really absorb the content of it. But between all of the stuff that I was listening to, what I realized was I was actually implementing a lot of these strategies that was coming in through all of these major influential people, everybody from Brian Tracy, uh, Neil Donald Walsh. I mean, everybody that you can imagine, Wayne Dyer, all of these inspirational people that were talking about success. It was just one thing after the other. I started to realize when I came into color energy, the continuity with the colors that created success. So just going back into my retail experience, I was winning large sales contests, national sales contests, and not just within the chain that I was in, but they were multinational. So for instance, if there was a particular product that was on sale, it might be with London Drug, Shoppers Drug Mart, and PharmaSave, Save on Foods. It might have encompassed all of them. In some cases, it was just the chain itself, but I was winning multiple sales contests. I've won vacations to the Caribbean. I've won cruises. I've won travel vouchers. I've won a $750 motorcycle, Indian motorcycle leather jacket for a display contest, an event contest that I did. So, and I don't say these things to brag, but what I'm sharing with you is that there was things that I did innately that I didn't understand why I was doing them. And I'm going to start to share some of those things with you so that you can start to see how you can maybe bring some of these qualities out in yourself and then recognize the color correlation to them. Because when you can remember 3 colors, that's really easy. It's not like 108 success principles, right? But 3 colors is pretty darn easy to remember. And that was the repetition that I was noticing throughout all of these audios that I was listening to, was the congruency of yellow, blue, and red. So I'm going to go a little bit more into that again. So with the sales contest that I would do, the first thing that I would always find myself doing is, you get excited about it. You're reading the information or whatever the contest might have been at the time. And I say it's a contest, but I also would challenge myself for daily sales. So I had daily and weekly and monthly objectives. If there was something that wasn't selling, I would put a challenge on for the staff. So we'll go a little bit more into those other specifics, but I'm just sharing my personal experience with this particular scenario. And so, the first thing that we would do is we'd get excited about it. I'm like, okay, we're going to have a contest, and I would share it with the other staff that was there with me. And I mean, those of you that know me, Rena, I know you're Caitlin, you're on here, Carolyn Freeman, I see you. There's many of us that know each other. I'm very enthusiastic. I get very passionate and excited about the things that I know about, right? And so that enthusiasm, I think, comes through for my customers, and that becomes contagious. So the first thing I would do is to motivate staff, if you have staff, and I will bring in other scenarios because sometimes I'll be talking about you specifically. It might be just a self-motivation that you have to do, but other times you might have staff that you're working with and you have to motivate staff, or even sometimes people that you choose to work with at events. Because I know there's different people that are working here that might tag team at different trade shows and whatnot. So how do you motivate the people that you're working with to collaborate with? It might even be collaborating with some of your community businesses and whatnot to help them get on board so that they can see a vision of working together as well. Because that was some of the other things that we did as well, was working with the community and the other businesses that were in the area to have them be affiliates for each other. You recommend them, they recommend you. So how can you start to stir those juices, get people to see your enthusiasm? So like I said, the first thing was always getting really excited about stuff. And when you're getting excited and you're working with your mind, that's your yellow energy. It's the sunny disposition, the cup half full, the optimistic, so you start getting to those areas. And another good way to know about to feel that yellow energy, because they talk about feeling something, right? And so you feel that in your gut. And if you have butterflies towards something, you move towards it. If you get that knot in your gut, then that's when you know to kind of pull away from it. If it makes you a little nauseous and it doesn't feel right, then your gut instinct is something really to listen to. And I don't think we're trained enough on that, about that gut instinct. So that was the first steps, was just getting excited about it. Let's talk about it. Let's come up with some ideas. And then the second step was planning and organizing. So, and that goes into your blue energy. So your blue energy is a strategizing. Now, think back to the book, The Secret, when it came out. Now, there's a lot of holes in that book. It's not, it's not the be all end all of manifestation, but there was some components there that really helped people to realize that there was a power to their mind. and something that they knew that they had they were more capable of drawing to them the things in which they wished to manifest in their life. And so I think it really opened up, some possibilities for people that might not have known otherwise how to attract these things that they wanted in their life. So with the blue energy, it's really about planning, organizing, and strategizing. And if you think back into The Secret, they talked about vision boards and they talked about writing lists and journaling and those sorts of things. So there's components of these things. But again, the missing component, the glue, was the color component. It's easy to remember: yellow, blue, red. And what are those three colors? They're primary. What does primary mean? It means first. So you do these steps first, and then we can create success in all of the other areas. So can you remember that part? Everybody? Yes, nod. Yellow, blue, red, primary colors, right? Easy
Red,
to
yellow,
remember.
Yellow,
So,
blue.
and then of course, once you've got your list written down, and we're going to go a little bit further into detailing a list, but when you've got your list written down, then the next steps are taking action on that list. And you can do little things on a daily basis that can get that train moving in the direction of what it is that you want to achieve. And whether this is planning your business, owning a home, getting in a relationship, there's all sorts of different things that you can do where you can get excited, plan it out on a list, and then start to take action on that list on a daily basis. Anything you want to add to that so far?
Well, when we talk about the colors, because obviously, I just want to add further on the blue. I did a class a couple months ago, and it was all about leadership. And you have to own your blue to be a leader, because people aren't going to follow you unless you actually have that blue within you. Because it is about that trust. It is about communicating. It is about leadership, that
100%.
organizing. So to me, it is really key that you hone in on your blue initially, because the yellow can be that sales component, or the red, that driving force, that action. But ultimately, you have to be in your blue energy and organize your plans. Absolutely.
Yeah. And just before I go a little bit further, there was a couple of housekeeping things that I did miss. And we want to ask you guys to ask questions in the box, in the question box, and think about things at probably about 45-minute mark or so. We're going to have an interactive segment. So you're going to be able to ask us your most poignant questions on, your struggles with business, struggles with product sales, or struggles with, even just getting yourself more familiar with customers. How do you come across more authentically? So any questions you have, jot them down, put them in the question box, and then we're going to hit that probably in about the middle of the segment. But definitely want you to be part of that interaction portion.
And just to elaborate on that, it's anything that you're confronted with in business that you feel is your challenge. And that could be your ability to sell. It could be your ability to plan. Whatever it is that you think is a stumbling block in your success. This is what we want to discuss, because part of this whole aspect of growing your business and being successful is understanding where your challenges are. And remember, everything is color coded. So Danielle and I are going to put colors to it, and we're going to talk about it. So we'll have some fun here.
Yeah. And of course, too, like many people in this industry, we find we've got the creatives that are the orange, we've got the violets and the indigos that are, they're visionaries, right? They're inventors. So, we've got a lot of people that have got this high right-brained energy, and the left brain energy is where they tend to maybe struggle a little bit more. Or maybe you have some yellow, but maybe you don't have the planning and the strategizing and the executing portion down pat yet. And this is like what we talk about with your exercising your color muscles, so to speak. So it's like, what is your lowest energy? And then how can we start to work those areas that maybe we struggle in a little bit more?
Because wherever you're weak, it's just because maybe you haven't been trained in that area. That's all it is. And when you get into the whole color philosophy and understand it's all about vibration, wherever you're weak, just bring in that color power to support you. I don't think, Danielle and I would be as successful as we are today if we didn't go into where we were weak, because where you're strong, that's natural to you. But where you're weak is often where you need to refine and put energy towards, so you can be successful in those areas.
Yeah. And you think too, any of those primary colors, if we do a collaboration of any one of those any of those three colors, you're mixing your yellow With the red, you're going to get orange. You're going to flourish in your orange energy more than you ever thought possible when you're bringing those two colors together. You mix the yellow and the blue, you're going to get the green. If you're heart-centered and you're a nurturer and a healer and a giver, then you're going to really flourish in those areas. And likewise, if you're going to bring in the red and the red and the blue, then, you know, of course, you're going to get that beautiful violet, which is that visionaries, where you're going to find that those visions that you have are actually going to come to fruition. And of course, then we've got our now I always call it territory color. Do I say it right? Territory. I say territory, but the third, you know, the third rung of color. You know, it's funny because
Tertiary.
yeah, whatever, potato. So, you know, that third rung of color is, I always vision this sort of pyramid, the stepping up of, you know, the first level, the second level, the third level being that indigo color. But that third color is where we really have our highest connection with Creator. And it's interesting because I almost think in some ways we want to turn that pyramid upside down, and it's where we meditate from. And if you're looking for that consciousness to come through from your Creator, you're going to get all the answers that you need. It's like your cup runs backwards almost in some ways too. I don't know, a little philosophy that goes on in my head, these little things that happen every once in a while. But I do think that it's very, very important to always meditate, pray, bring in God to help you to create some of these things, because that's the one thing that I find in this industry that we do miss in, is that we tend to think that when we're manifesting, we're doing it alone and with solitude. And, you know, when we're bringing in Creator with that, it's just that much more powerful. You know, when you're edging God out, that's the ego getting involved, right? EGO. So anyways, I'm going to carry on here. So national, so contests and whatnot. Now, how about for you, Susanne? Tell us about some of the things, like your successes. I know when you were working in the bookstore or your art store and stuff, like what were some of the things that you found were your biggest successes?
So yeah, I failed to mention that I actually
She had a business.
I actually still have businesses, but
Yes.
nonetheless, my first brick and mortar store, I understood that in order to bring in the locals, I had to be creative. So almost on a weekly basis, I had something going on in my store. Now, because it was an art store, which of course is my love of colors, I had different artists that would come in and do events at the store. But I also had really obscure things going on. This guy in the neighborhood walked in and we were chatting, and he told me he made wine and he sold wine kits. And I went, great, let's have a winemaking class. So don't always think you know everything. Rely on that maybe other people would want to align with you and bring their skill set. So I never thought that I had to have one kind of artist because, well, I guess winemaking is an art. So I just kind of looked at it as an opportunity to connect with the people within my community and bring them in. And now that I also, you know, own a herbal apothecary, it's the same thing. We have practitioners that are in-house, but we just finished a 1-year anniversary, and it was a 2-week event. We had classes going on. We had practitioners doing demonstrations, all kinds of fun things. So you always have to, you know, excite the people that are out there. And it's not always necessarily you. I believe in the community, you know, because when we talk about, you know, how to grow a business, when you just bring in the ego and think you're alone, then it's a hard road to go on alone. Whereas when you actually work with others within your community, you can build up quite a bit. And I even remember when I first started working in this store, because it was a pre-existing store, but when I first started working in the store, I would talk to the different people that worked in the store and specifically practitioners. And once I saw what they did, when I did my biopulsar event, I would drive clients to them. So if I saw that somebody, you know, was blocked in the armpit area, I would send them to the lymph drainage specialist. If I saw that their spine was weak, I recommended them to the blood analysis person. So with everything that I did, I was driving people to the other practitioners. Well, then the practitioners started coming up to me saying, Susanne, since you've landed at Gaia, I've been busier than ever. Because all of a sudden I started engaging people to get other people's services. Okay. And of course, for my own business, I was, you know, promoting color energy products. And so I know when I'm in the store doing events, I tend to sell several $100s worth of color energy products. But even before that, when I first started with Color Energy, I was phoning up all kinds of businesses, health stores, metaphysical stores. And I was saying, listen, I've got this technology, or even pre that, I would say, hi, I'm with Color Energy. I'd love to come in and teach a seminar. Not one person said no to me, because stores are always looking at things happening. Now, if you're on the other end where you own that brick and mortar store, then think of the people within your community that you can bring in that will engage excitement with your clients, whatever it is. And I know that there are several people, on our class that often offer different skill sets, and so therefore think of what you have and maybe you can align with other people. Even if you have a brick and mortar store, align with people that you can piggy bank with, because again, what I found was I was driving people to the practitioners, I was driving the product sales, and I was also promoting my own classes. So then I started doing regular events with classes. So again, whatever your challenge is, what we want to do today is offer you some of our insight that can help your business grow. Because often when you're in your own business, you don't look outside of that box. And, I always think about this one customer, Color Energy customer that we had in New York. I phoned him up and it was sort of like I was catching him off guard, which obviously if I'm phoning people up saying, hi, it's Susanne with Color Energy. And he said, what do you want? And I said, well, I'm just checking in to see how the products are going and how I might be able to assist you. And he goes, well, my sales are slow. And we engaged in this conversation, and overall his sales were slow. So I started giving him some insight. And then I said to him, if you don't mind me letting you know, if you're having a problem drawing people into your store, take a look at what you're exuding out, because honestly, when I called you, your negative attitude came through the phone. There's no way I would shop in your store with that attitude. And the phone went dead. And then all of a sudden he said, you know what? You're right. You're right. Because you've got to make sure that when people come into your facility, whether it's for a service or whether it's for products that you sell, you've got to make them feel so important that they want to actually buy from you, that they want your services. But if you're feeling that you're not getting where you want to go, guess what you're radiating? And that's again about that positive energy. You've got to switch your energy into something positive that draws people in.
Oh my goodness, all these things you're saying, and I'm writing down all these notes about where I want to go to next. So, but to elaborate on what you're saying, there was not the most politically correct person, but Jordan Belford. If you ever watched that, was that Wolf on Wall Street?
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
so, and like I said, not the most politically correct guy, but he was brilliant in his sales techniques. I say in one capacity because there was definitely not the heart-centeredness there, but if you ever saw the show, but there was some things that he did really, really well. And so he actually has or he's got stuff on YouTube that's called Straight Line Selling. So I actually took some notes from that. And some of the things that they talked about, one, you've only got 4 seconds to make a good first impression with your customers. So make sure that that first impression that you make, it is stellar. You're even if you're having a hard day, if you put a smile on your face, if you're talking to somebody on the phone, it actually comes through your body language and it comes through in your voice and your tone. So, the first thing is to be sharp, enthusiastic, and knowledgeable. So what does it mean to be sharp? You must show certainty about you, your products, and your company. Engage and engage in the questions that are being asked of you. How to start a conversation that feels natural yet to the point, so that you're not wasting people's time and you're reading their energy, right? So again, these were things that I used to do innately, and some people do innately, where they'll be like, if your customer's in a hurry, so are you. If your customer's leisurely shopping, then so are you. You don't want to be putting the pressure on when somebody's just trying to come in there and just casually shop, and vice versa the other way. You need to pick up the pace a little bit. If your customer looks like they're in a hurry, they're only there for a few minutes, they're going to appreciate that you're valuing their time as well. So you want to be able to have some of those conversations and let it feel natural, but you've got to engage and meet their energy where they're at. And then what does it mean to be enthusiastic? And again, I mean, this seems like it's such common sense for a lot of people, but sometimes it reflects taking a mirror and saying, okay, look, like, are you checkboxing on all of these things? So start confidently with a sunny voice. Cannot be wishy-washy out of the gate, or you'll fail before you even begin. has tonality that is appropriate to the conversation at hand. Like I was just saying, if they're in a hurry, you're in a hurry, and that sort of thing. Verbal nods, increasing the volume and softening. I always say, like, if you're like softening your voice, like as if you're telling a secret, like, when I want to tell you something, it's like you guys are wanting to lean in a little bit, right? So it's like knowing when to lean in and lean back away from the conversation so that you're not too pushy with somebody and you're reading their signs where it's like, maybe it's a little bit too much, and then you know when to pull back and let them have a moment to speak as well.
And another thing that works well is when you actually touch people. We're so out of touch, honestly, that even that little touch going, I understand, or I hear you, or thanks for sharing. That little touch goes a long way with clients.
Yeah. And showing your desire to help them, that you want to work with them for years to come as well. Like, are you showing up as you're looking to get from them, or are you looking to give to them? Are you contributing to their path of wellness? Because that's, of course, what we're all here for, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, what does it mean to be knowledgeable and then able to have or get answers in a timely fashion? So this doesn't mean that you necessarily have to have all of the answers, but that you're able to get that information and that you're able to execute it within the time frame that you tell that person you're going to get back to them within. So if it means give me 24 hours or I'll get back to you at the end of the week, but that you actually execute on the time that you say that you're going to get back to them. And of course, if you can over deliver, what does that say? Like when you're under promise and over deliver, then, that's always good as well. If you tell them you're gonna get back to them within 24 hours, but you're back to them by the end of the day, that's best case scenario too.
And I'll also bring something out, because one of the things is, I know I get asked a lot of questions, like on a daily basis. I'm a specialist in what I do. If somebody asks me a question, for example, about color and design, that's not my forte. So I'll actually tell people, I'm sorry, that's not my field of expertise. However, I'll segue the conversation into something that might be beneficial to them. So when you are working with clients, sometimes you don't have to be the know-it-all, but know your boundaries and then try to see if you have another solution for them as well. Because otherwise you spend so much time putting energy out there for a solution that the customer may not eventually even purchase. When I had my store, I'd have people going in, oh, I love that. Do you have it in the color blue? And I'd say, I don't at this moment, but if you'd like, I can order it in for you. Would you like me to order it? And they would say, oh, the next time I'm in, I'll drop in, and if you have it in the blue, I'll get it then. It never manifested. Okay. So a lot of times people will kind of derail the conversation because they don't really want the solution either. So know that too. Don't waste your time on people unless you know that there's going to be a mutual benefit. Okay.
Absolutely. And then one other part to the knowledge is sharing knowledge is helpful. Share experiences on how your products have helped others so that your customers can relate to what you are selling, events, testimonials, and how color has changed your life. So all of these scenarios are things that are going to help to draw people coming back to you, because we know that, more people there will be more sales resultant of the knowledge that you provide. They will come to purchase from you over somebody who will not provide that knowledge. And that's why we love the fact that we've got so much information, whether it's the biopulsar and the information that either comes from the system or comes from the manual that Susanne's put together, or whether it's any of our courses or even our brochures, or even just the information that's literally written right on the product. And that was actually one of the other points that I wanted to bring up, is how do you look like an expert when you maybe don't know all of the answers? And I saw, Caitlin, you had asked a question. I know that you're not in cosmetics, I get it, but it's still color world in some ways. But what it boils down to is it's still selling and it's still education based. So for me, being in the cosmetic industry, and I was in there from like all through my 20s and 30s, I guess I started working here, I was 35. And so, all through that time, I had to know how to sell products that I wouldn't necessarily use. So when I'm selling the cream that's for the mature skin, the mature dry skin, and I've got oily, 20-year-old something skin, that's not what I'm needing. That's not my thing for using. I'm not going to have a personal experience, but I will be able to get personal experiences from other customers. So it's really a lot of active listening from your other clients. And then, like I said, with our products, and because this is one of the things I know it's important to each of you, is to understand, how do our products work for your clients? We're here for Color Energy ultimately. So, how does that relate onto your customers? And it can really quite simply be, just taking a product and then reading off, oh, look at this. There's 16 different essential oils in here. Oh, and this has got, planetary alignment, geometric patterns, crystalline energy. And I would literally sell an entire skincare line of products that at the time,
reading the label.
just reading the label, because I didn't understand the products and the science behind them so much, because that does certainly elevate your sales to the next level. And we'll get to that as well.
Yeah.
But it's like, you don't always have to be the expert. There's often so much information with all of our products that if you just take your customers through a brochure or actually what's on the ingredients or on the product directions, it'll be enough for you to still look knowledgeable and have enough of the information. You'll have the information you need from our products right listed on them.
And I mean, we have a ton of information. And when you actually say it over and over and over again, and you can pick a product and that becomes the product that you want to sell for the week or the month. And then by the time you've done your little educational spiel, a dozen or 2 dozen times, it rolls off the tongue. But you got to remember, to get to that point of consciousness, it is a process. And it's kind of like, I always make the, association to tying your shoes. When you're first taught to tie your shoes, I mean, it's a brain buster, right? Because you're sitting there going, now, how did they do that? They had 2 loops or 1 loop or whatever it is. And you're trying to remember the steps. And then you get taught a couple times and you try a couple times and maybe you fail, but then you get it. And then the next time it becomes a little easier, and the next time a little easier, that eventually you get to the point you're tying your shoelace without thinking. It's the same thing. Everything in life takes practice.
Well, and that's the difference between working from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So when you're working with the conscious mind, that's when you really have to think about those processes that need to happen. And so this
which is just so you know, which is the yellow and the blue.
Yeah.
It's the memorization.
Yeah.
Right. And eventually it becomes innate, where you become authentic, because then you're talking out of your main color energy, but you've got the knowledge already in your unconsciousness to pull from. Now you're saying the words that resonate with your energy. Cool, eh?
Excellent. How about you talk a little bit about the personality test then, because we've had some changes on that as well. We've talked about it a little bit before, but I think we've got a lot of new people on here today. So
yeah. So when Inger first started the company, and that was what, 30,
35?
Yeah, I was going to say
37?
36 years ago. When Inger first started the company, because of her background, she understood that people resonated the colors in their personality. And of course, a lot of people refer to it as the chakras, but we call it the color intelligence centers, because literally the hormonal production, via the sunlight, stimulates the hormones that create your thoughts, your moods, and your wellness. So everything literally is color coded, including your personality. Some colors you use more and some colors you use less. And I remember when I did Inger's test, and it was 133 questions. When I first did the test and she came to Canada to visit, right away I started asking her about my test results. And I was going, why did you do that? Why is the question like this? Why are there 3 questions in 1 question? And she looked at me, she goes, you're so yellow. And that, of course, was my top color. And I understood that, yes, the yellow is the investigator. So all the questions that I answered that had to do with that yellow character literally is what exhumed in me. It was, my main character. But for me, what was eye-opening is the 2 colors that were the weakest were the ones that I know I repressed. And when you start to study the color language and you see that in yourself, then you can understand, geez, why am I low in this area? And decipher, some of the possibilities of what transpired in your house from your teachers, your parents, your siblings. These are all, your teachers of life. Everybody that you come across, every experience that you have is color coded. So when I saw what colors were lowest, that's where I focused my energy, because I already knew I was yellow violet. I didn't have to really focus on that, because that's already how I thought. That's how I already acted. But even understanding my main 2 characters and how they fought each other, because this is the whole thing, is when you have 2 energies that are your top energies, sometimes they're going to get into a dialogue. And whether you realize it or not, it's your dialogue based on your main characters. So my yellow and violet would always argue, my violet being that metaphysician or that spiritualist was arguing with the yellow because, you know this, what my violet would say, you know this.
And if you're and if you're talking to yourself, don't interrupt me. We're having a business meeting up here.
And I mean, my yellow would go, well, prove it then. Right. And it was always that struggle of the esoteric and, what was proven scientifically.
Mhm.
So that was also an epiphany for me to understand how my two top energies battled, as well as why I repressed in my lower energies. So now fast forward to this year, we're actually coming out with a new website. A few people have already experienced it, and there is more added questions, and the questions are more specific. So we've really enhanced the test. Now, if you have old tokens that you've purchased and you want to convert them into new, just let us know how many old tokens you have and we'll give you the new ones. We're still building the site. There's going to be more advantages to it. And I'm not going to go into all that, but our long-term goal is to actually go beyond what we've been teaching you. And part of that includes not only analyzing yourself, but, getting to know your coworkers better, getting to know your partners better, getting to know your children better. Because once you understand your own color and you then also can see the colors around you, it gives you a greater appreciation of their strengths and how you work together. So had I not known, for example, the colors of my partner or the colors of my mother, oh my goodness, when I learned the colors of my mother, the dynamics made so much more sense to me, and so everybody in my life, I gifted them with a test because I wanted to understand who they were. I wanted to know their colors because that would help me understand our color connection. And everyone in my family that I tested, yellow was either number one or number two.
Mhm.
That's how we all get along, is through our yellow, right? Now my sister has high green, so she's the she's the nurturer in the family, where my green is low. So that's why I love my sister, because she gives me something that I don't naturally have. Similarly, my partner has high red and orange, so I get something from him that isn't as innate to me. So when you start using the test in regards to relationships, in regards to business, in regards to like literally, everybody who's in your life, and you start to see them in color, it's so much easier. Because when Danielle does what she does, which I have to show you, she wrote like a 3-page outline of what we're going to be talking about today, it's because I know her blue stronger than mine. Absolutely, I love that. I just have to follow a script. Who wouldn't love that in their life? So we have to appreciate the people. And, it's not to say that we don't have, our little nuances, because, she's high in certain colors and I am high in others. So of course we're going to have a bit of conflict, but we can laugh about it somewhat, and say, that's your blue, or ha ha ha, that's your yellow, or ha ha ha, that's your violet. But we're always sort of understanding a bit more because we understand who we are. And when I say who we are, I'm talking about HUE.
Mhm.
And I believe this should be a conduit in every business, because by knowing the colors of the people that you're working with is profound, because then you can use their strengths, but also encourage their weaknesses.
Mhm.
Now Danielle's more of a team leader than I am, because she's got that high blue, and I respect that, because she's got skill sets that I don't have, but nonetheless I can learn from her. And that's the beauty of things, being able to learn, because I have increased my blue, although you wouldn't see it from the organization in my room. But my blue for the last several years has actually come up to either the second or third spot. But I'm more in the writing and the other aspects.
Mhm.
So again, it's not that we would use our blues the same. We would use them accordingly to our own color energies, what's most important. So for me, it's not necessarily writing the script, but it's learning the script.
Well, one of the things I always like to say too is, and this is such a great analogy, and grasp this, because when you're explaining this to your customers as well, the personality test is something easy that you can incorporate in with your business. So that's the first thing is, and when you want to explain it to your customers, and I want you to explain after I'm done this, the difference between, say, the personality test and the biopulsar, because I know we've got a lot of biopulsar owners on here too. But I find that working with the personality test is much like the layers of an onion. Okay, what are the colors that are on the outside that you let people see the most or that you know the most about yourself? And what are the colors in the core of that onion that you either don't know about yourself or that you don't let people see very often? Okay, so I think that analogy really helps to make, stories help to,
Yeah.
it makes it easier to explain things when you can do it through a story or analogy. So those layers of the onions, I think back to like when my mom did the personality test back way back in the day. Now, my mom was a very high orange personality. Well, my orange personality is my lowest. I grew up with somebody who was, the emotional ups and downs. And, when she was up, but when she was down, she was down. And she didn't filter a lot of things, but she was super creative. We always had a beautiful home growing up. She was very much into the decoration. My mom was in cosmetics long before me too. So she had the whole color thing probably back in the 80s, the 35 shades of eyeshadow at the same time, right? I don't think there's anybody in here that's probably in their 20s or whatever. So you know what I'm talking about. But when mom did the personality test and she looked at it and and talked about like the emotionality and some of the negative attributes. Now it's almost like there's 14 color personalities really, because you've got the whole slew of positives and the whole slew of maybe not so positives. So you've got this color language that you need to learn in the positive and the negative form. And so when my mom was looking through all the negative things, I'm like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're all of these negative things, but it might mean predominantly when you're not in that good space, that these are some of the qualities that you might exude. So she looked at it and she was like, well, I'm not like that. And I don't do that. And I'm like, bit, Mom, a little bit, right? So, it's like the personality test really works for like as a mirror for people to look at and reflect on some of these qualities that maybe are less attractive that you don't necessarily want to be connected to. So the only way to sometimes know how to not do those things is to have somebody show you the mirror. And the personality test is such a lovely way to do that, because it's not, it's not poking the finger or it's not confrontational. It's just letting you know you could be some of these things or some of these things or all of these things. It just really is, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses in even your strong parts of your personality, right? And like Susanne was saying, how, you might have conflicts with your top two energies. Again, go back to that analogy of the onion. It's like, when I'm at work, I'm very yellow. I'm, optimistic. I'm talking, I'm learning, I'm teaching. So I'm constantly more of that extrovert right-brained or left-brained energy. But then when I go home, like I really do, I love my own company. I love it when everybody's out of the house and the house is silent. I like being a homebody at times, but I also like going out. So, it's like these are my two conflicts is that, sometimes I want to go out and socialize and I'm the hardest person to pull away. And then other times, like, I don't even want to go out. I don't want to leave my house. I don't want to get out of my pajamas. So, that's where you'll find those top two colors, you'll be able to flick the switch on quite easily. But as you start to get into your third, fourth, and fifth colors, and especially down to your sixth and seventh colors, that you'll really realize what is it that I need to work on. So I just want to bring it back to, before we get into the biopulsar and personality test difference, but I want to go back to, again, those weakest colors again, because when you have the top three colors of your primary colors, if you are a yellow, blue, red personality, you're going to be like a force to be reckoned with. This is not going to be somebody in society that you're going to see very often who's got all three of these qualities at their top colors. So you might have yellow, blue. I've got very high yellow, blue. My red is definitely lower on the rung. It's not the bottom of the rung, but it's around maybe about fifth or sixth, I think, or so. So, for me, it's like the just do it energy is where I have to really work that muscle. Now, mentally speaking, and many people, because we have so many people who have got yellow in their top two energies, you'll understand what I'm saying when it's like, have you ever woken up in bed in the morning and you're like, oh, I should get up and exercise. Oh, just a few more minutes of sleep. Oh, but I really should get up. Oh, but yeah, I'm just going to pull over. So that is where you are going from like your indigo energy to your, back to your yellow, and you're going back and forth and you're not actually harnessing that red energy, because somebody who's a red personality is going to say, all right, nope, don't even think about it. Let's go hop out of bed. Let's get dressed. Let's make the bed. Let's get out and go and do a walk or whatever we're going to do. So that's when I find myself, like if I find that analytical yellow side of myself, flipping myself in and out of my own conversation, that's when I have to go, no, I just have to do it. I just have to do it. And if I let that yellow analytical side come back in again, I'll talk myself out of it. So it's, that is where we really have to learn how to flick that switch, where we have to exercise those muscles and we have to push ourselves and consciously be aware of it until the point where it's subconsciously, like what Susanne was saying in the beginning. So it's like, it's not as easy in the beginning, but if you did it for 30, I think, is it 30 days to create new habits?
Mhm.
So if you did that consistently for 30 days and you didn't allow yourself to step out of that, you would create new habits. My daughter's actually doing something really great right now. We're going on our first European vacation, May 2nd, for about 3 and a bit of weeks, and super excited. Well, my daughter's wanting to get in shape. So she has put sticky notes all over the mirror in her bedroom. And so for each day, she's had a sticky note. So what she's doing, she's getting herself to bed earlier every day.
Mhm.
She's reading her book before she goes to bed every night. She's exercising for at least a minimum of a half an hour every day. She's drinking a certain amount of water, like these big jugs of water that she's got every day. So she's done about 5 or 6 different things to really exercise that willpower, that she has, and the drive and the execution of getting things done. She's let herself gain a couple of pounds, and she's not happy where she's at, but it just something inspired her and really motivated her. And so every day she's taking off these stickers. So she's been doing this, I think it was like a 75-day challenge or something like
Mhm.
that. So, she's got a couple of weeks left on her board, but she's now done this with herself for so long, for the last, couple of months, since the beginning of the new year or whatever, that now this is going to be natural for her. She just gets out of bed and she does the
Yeah.
exercise. She doesn't let herself talk herself out of it anymore. So finding ways to be conscious about it until you are subconsciously doing it, without even thinking about it.
And writing the notes is invaluable because I think it was Napoleon Hill that said, when you put the pen to paper, it begins the manifestation.
Mhm.
If you just keep it here, it becomes just something that's in your imagination or your thoughts. So to manifest, you should really write a list of the things that you want to do. And, we're not going to go heavy into the goal setting, but, you need to actually start creating lists and,
Mhm.
have those goals in mind. And it doesn't have to be anything heavy duty. It could just be something where you're stepping a little ahead all the time, because those little challenges that you accomplish can be life-changing,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and the list too, Brian Tracy says that if you do a list of 20 things when you're trying to obtain a goal for something, if you do a list of 20 things, the first 5 to 10 things might be easy to write down, but when you're planning towards something, it's those 15 to 20 things where your brain really starts getting creative. And even if it seems unrealistic, still write it down, because one idea might play off of another idea. Then that's where those creative
Yeah,
juices
it's
really flow.
brainstorming within
And
yourself. Yeah.
yeah, and then like Susanne said, every day you just start checking off one thing at a time. And so, slowly but surely you're still making, a path that your sales are blowing in the right direction, where you are actually making progress for your goals that you're wanting to achieve. And the list is good to have, and checking those things off, because sometimes people don't feel like they're making the progress,
Yeah.
and you don't realize how much red energy you've actually put into this until you can go back and you can go, huh, okay, well, look at that. I've done something every day for the last 75 days.
Yeah.
Look at me go.
Yeah.
So
And that's important when you're doing your business, because if you have those 20, goals, some of them are going to be really easy for you to do, and others might be more challenging. So whatever it is, write that list down and just start checking them off.
why don't you just touch a little bit on the difference between the biopulsar and the personality test, and how those two how they work together, and then how they differentiate?
Yeah. So the color personality test is how you normally think on a daily basis. Because again, there's different energies that you access a lot of those characters. So that defines how you think. Okay. And I should elaborate on that. How you think, how you act, how you believe, how you emote is all based on your energies and how you've developed them over your life. Whereas the biopulsar is also somewhat the same, where it is your history until this moment in time. When I do a biopulsar exam versus a color test and I compare the two, I'm looking at what the similarities are versus what's different. And I'm not talking about, the energy of the organs. I'm talking more about the frequencies of the brain. So when I first started working with the biopulsar and I'd look at my aura picture above my head, I always had yellow violet. And every day, here I was a yellow violet, and every day I was showing yellow violet, yellow violet. And I understood that I literally was like a horse with blinders on, because that's how I was thinking every day, was through my yellow violet. I wasn't tapping into my green or my orange or the other colors as I could have. Rather, I was stuck in the yellow violet. So it confirmed my test that I was so much in my yellow, I wasn't getting, I was getting in my own way. I was just way too yellow. So as I started to actually go into the colors more so, and I've done where, you know, green I did for months, yellow I did for months, you know, like literally I've spent months on every color. And as I was going through this growth, all of a sudden my aura started changing colors, because I started actually allowing the emotions to come in. I started allowing other aspects of myself to flourish. So I could actually see not only, you know, well, I already knew that I was yellow violet, but it was nice to see that I started tapping into other colors. And this is one of the most challenging things for people, is to understand the colors from the perspective of that color energy. And for those of you who have taken my master program, you can attest to this more so, is the fact that when you're learning your colors, you're playing with your colors to push yourself to really understand what red is, what orange is, what yellow is, what green is, what blue, indigo, violet is, from the perspective of that intelligence. Had I never gone into the green, which was my lowest, and analyze that green energy, but actually brought in that emotional component of myself, I don't think I would feel life as I do today, because I'm more committed in relationships, because now I'm more focused on that heart. And one of the things I teach everyone is, if you're talking from ego, my voice goes up. When I talk from the heart, my voice goes down.
Absolutely.
It's really crazy to even note these things, you know, so I'm always trying to educate people that you are perfect the way you are, but there's areas of yourself. I do believe God gave us innate gifts, and God gave us challenges. What is innate in us is already what we have natural. What's not natural is where we've not been taught. And usually it's we've not been taught. Because, you know, when I look at my family dynamics, my mother was I think it's yellow, what was she? Yellow, red, blue, or blue, red, yellow. Anyways, her top three energies were all masculine. Well, she never taught me emotions. No wonder my yellow became enhanced, because the family dynamics was all about the yellow energy, not the other colors. So I had to actually train myself on what green meant, because my mother couldn't do it. Thankfully, I had some of that green from my sister, that, you know, she was always the nurturer and the caregiver. So I got some little tidbits from her, but it still was something I had to focus on to be more natural.
And yet on the opposite side of that, because you always look at, you know, your upbringing and how that reflects on you. And in some cases, like you're saying with your mom didn't have a lot of green energy, so you didn't. And I definitely see that on my dad's side of the family, where there's a lot of lacking of green energy that was there. You know, both my dad and his two sisters, they're not as heart-centered. And yet on my mom's side, you know, there's more of the emotionality side of things. And so but just in my own experience, because my mom was that high emotionality person, my parents broke up when I was quite young. And this is an interesting story too, but my parents, when they broke up, I had to exercise muscles as a kid that I was thrown into the deep end. So my mom wasn't able to kind of hold her poop in a group. And so I ended up having to look after things. And so I exercised, you know, I grew up very quickly. I had to keep things organized. I had to get my sister and I off for school. So I started to exercise things that I didn't have to do before I was 11 years old. And I was always the sunny disposition, cup half full. I was the one that was trying to help keep my mom's head above water when she was feeling so
Emotional.
the anxiety and the depression that she was going through. It was always like I was the shoulder to lean on. So I had to be strong. I had to be stoic. And it was always like, it's okay, mom, door closes, window opens. Like I was that kid. So that started to exercise those energies for me. Now, what I find was really interesting when we did the course that Inger had, not the
Power of Seven.
the Power of Seven course. There was a gal that was in the class with me, and her parents were not divorced, but our personality trait, our order of our colors and everything was exactly the same, exactly to a T, Caroline.
Okay.
Now, what was interesting though is Caroline was the oldest female of all of her siblings. So she had like 6 or 7 siblings. So, in the same caveat that I have had to grow up quickly and was responsible for my sister, she was the oldest female having to look after all of her brothers and her younger sisters and whatnot. And so she was exercising those things as being like the second mom in the family from a very, very young age. So we found that those comparisons, even though slightly different upbringings, but you can see how two different scenarios could result in the exact same color personality. And I've never seen that since then, like where somebody's had the exact same color range, and our numbers and everything were like spot on with each other.
Yeah.
So two different scenarios, but where people have had, the same kind of outcome because there's that exercising of those same energy muscles, right?
Yeah, yeah. And with every color, there's hundreds of characteristics that go to that
Mhm.
color. So I once taught a class where there were 6 people in the room and all 6 of them were high yellows. But the way they used their yellow energy was slightly different. However, they got into an argument and it was so hilarious because the egos were battling each other. It was phenomenal to actually watch as another yellow, but rather I'd like to say as somebody, looking from the outside in to watch how all of them were yellow, but using their attributes slightly differently.
Mhm.
So, again, we still are that amazing, butterfly where, we have our own coding system and the way we got there is unique to each one of us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, and so I want you to start thinking about the questions that you want to ask, because at this point right now, we're going to go a little bit into the product concept, and we can't go into every single product, but in general, it's a very easy concept when you understand the color energy, that the frequencies of the colors. If you're working with a personality test or you're working with a biopulsar, or even if you just start to understand the color language, like perhaps if you come to one of our master classes, for instance, you'll understand the color energies so much so that you don't necessarily even need to have a test. Like I can be with somebody, and if they're super exuberant, they're super creative, and good example, my mom wanted to have a black and white birthday party one year, and of course, she's the one that wants to come wearing flashy, flashy color, right? And then, of course, who else does? Her best friend, who's like flashy, flashy colors. Like, okay, did you miss the memo? It was supposed to be a black and white birthday party, right? So,
Well, they wanted to be outside of the box, right?
100%, right? So, when we understand the color, the color concept, it makes recommending products really, really easy. It's quite simply, what's your lowest color? This is where we need to work. All of our products are color coded so that you know exactly which products. So it boils down to 7 colors. What colors are, your weakest, and where do you need to work the most?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hit it over to you to talk a little bit more about the concept, and then we'll go into some product and some questions with everybody on the
Yeah,
screen.
just, elaborating on the color personality. I think we've all heard about the indigo child. And
Mhm.
I remember reading, I actually went out and bought a whole bunch of books on that because I was fascinated with the subject.
Mhm.
And when I read these books, I really felt that they were missing a huge piece of the puzzle. And what I saw was they were talking about the indigo, but they weren't talking about the indigo red child or the indigo orange child or the indigo yellow child or the indigo green child or the indigo blue or violet child. So literally, we have to understand that there's so many components to our personality. And this is why it's not only important to understand the main driver, but who's next to the one in charge. And then the other one, because the top 3 combinations really indicate how you think through your energies. And if you have all left brain energies on top, you're going to be a different type of personality than somebody who has all right brain energies on top. Then there's the extroverted colors versus the introverted colors, the more physical energies versus the spiritual energies. So there's so much behind, the color coded system. And this is what we're an expert at. And, when we go into the products and some of your challenges, this is part of what we need to look at. What color are you? If you have not done the personality test, you really need to do it. And for everybody who's joined us today in this class, you'll get the test for half price. And what we'll do is we'll send out an email just sort of illustrating that. And some of you have already done the test. So now what we want you to do is look at your main energy because that's going to influence your business.
Mhm.
Bottom line. Okay, because Danielle and I have, the stronger yellows, violets, and blues. This is why I think one of the reasons why we connect with thoughts, because of the fact we have that ideologies, of our violet, we have the blue organization, other than my room, and the yellow, which is that educator who loves to teach people more about their energy. So whatever your color is, what you have to do is figure out how you can use your color to your advantage in business, but also recognize where you may be falling short, and if you need to focus on those energies to be more successful. And this is why when we talk about the different things, we can sort of, have that discussion as to maybe what the color resolution is, so you can identify whether it's a strength or weakness in your own personality.
I find too that, when you're doing this yellow, blue, and red concept that I was mentioning earlier, is that this is not something that needs to take a large amount of time.
Yeah.
And I'm always somebody I pride myself, grass doesn't grow under my feet, or we used to call each other sniff and scurry. If you've ever read the 1 Minute Manager, or no,
Who stole my cheese?
Yeah, same guy, 1 Minute Manager, he wrote as well, same guy. But Who Stole My Cheese was this concept of, there's all this abundance of cheese in the one area. And, there's 4 mice that were in there, and there was Sniff and Scurry and Hem and Haw. And Sniff and Scurry, when the cheese was removed, Sniff was like, well, I'm going to go find new cheese. And Scurry's like, all right, you go find new cheese, come back, let me know where the cheese is, and I'll come and follow you. So Sniff goes out, he finds new cheese and finds that there's like an even better pot of cheese on the other side of the maze. Well, he comes back, he gets Scurry, and Scurry's like, yep, no problem, let's go, let's do this. So you get somebody who's like maybe the leader who wants to initiate things, but then the next person who's like, yeah, no problem, it's good idea, I'm with you, right? And that's how we've always worked, is like, I'll come up with an idea for something or like that. I remember coming in, in my earlier days too, is like, I'd come in and there'd be like a box on my desk the next day. It was like, oh my gosh, like you've already done it. It's so great. So, and then where Hem and Haw are like, I don't know, I'm not, cheese might come back.
I've never left this corner of the maze.
Yeah, and the cheese might come back, and if the cheese comes back and we're not here to get it when it comes, so, and you see how people procrastinate on things and that they're afraid of change, and it really does shine a light on, there's a lot that the people who are like that they're, even though we say that there's 7 personalities, but this really breaks it down almost into 4 simple, where, are you a go-getter? Are you somebody who's going to go and do something? Even if you're maybe not the first one to pioneer it, that you're actually going to still get off your butt. You've got ideas. We're going to give you a whole bunch of ideas here today. So it's now up to you. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So it's up to you guys to take some of these ideas and actually execute them. So, we're the sniffs today. You guys need to be the scurries in this. So it's like, take some of these ideas, write them down, and one step at a time, you're going to start to make things happen.
And remember, it's up to you, because one of my beliefs is, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. Don't let your main color interfere with your success, because the violet in you may say, well, if it's meant to be, then, it'll be presented on a platter, right?
Well, and the violet sometimes has lots of ideas, but doesn't always execute them, and has got a few things sitting on her desk that just like unfinished projects, right?
Well,
but it's like, it's, but that's what we find even in this industry, is people will have like great ideas, but then if we're not using that red energy, and I've got my own weaknesses too, so I'm not calling out Susanne on anything she doesn't call me out on, but it's like, we need to find a way to execute these things. And so what I was saying earlier is that this can literally be a 15-minute process of get excited about what it is that you want to create, write down your list, and pick up the phone or do something to start chipping away at that list right away. If you start to drag it out and you're like, okay, you do your list and you're like, okay, I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'm going to do that. Unless you're doing it right at night, and then you are that person who's going to wake up first thing in the morning and make that phone call to start working away and chipping away at your list. It's not going to happen if you're going to procrastinate for mañana. So again, got to work that red energy muscle, because I think even like Caitlin said, you've got a biopulsar, Caitlin, and 95% of people that hop on there, a lot of people have got low red energy. So, we are a society. We've been working a lot. We put a lot of money out, a lot of taxes out, and all this stuff we don't get the vacations that we want, or the time to be able to downplay. I know a lot of you that are on here are working long days and trying to, run your business in multiple ways just to make ends meet. And so now you've got to put this put your blinders on and focus on your projects, your list, and just start chipping away at it a little bit at a time.
So the first thing I want to look at is the challenge, because I just quickly put up a poll there. And the intention of that was just to have a bit of an understanding of where, you know, on a business level, we need to focus. So I can see here the number one is increase clients and repeat business. Okay, so let's just talk about that first, because before we delve into the individual questions, this to me is an important factor. Now, research has already proven, and this is, again, I'm a stats girl. This is where my yellow shines. I read a lot about statistics. So when it comes to the business end of things, what brings people back is your knowledge. Okay, if you're the leader that can indicate to people that you have solutions for their problems, they're going to keep coming back to you because they see you as that educator. Okay, and remember, as we were talking about earlier, you have to have confidence in your knowledge, but you don't have to know everything to begin with. This is where people fail too. They think that they have to know everything. You just have to know a couple things.
Yeah.
And this is where, you know, we've given you so much indication of how you can use our products. So, you know, for example, one of the questions is, how do I use a spray? So let's go back to the spray that Danny grabbed off the shelf. We've got here the white light. Well, it's a spray. So how do you use a spray? Well, you take your finger and you hit the button. Poof, it sprays. Okay, super easy. Now let's take it to the next level. I could put it above the head. I could spray a part of my body, right? So with a spray, it could be over the head, it could be on your person, directly on your energy centers, or wherever you feel it necessary. Now, what made me successful right from the get-go with color energy was I just started playing with the product, and I started getting inspired by using the product because I found it enhanced a certain mood or a certain thought or a certain physicality, you know, or it raised my spirits. So by playing with the products, I started to understand the color language of that product because it was communicating to me in its frequency. And this is the wonderful thing about frequency medicine. I don't know how you're going to be affected. I don't know if you're going to feel it more physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. I just know when you use a red product, you're getting the red frequency. An orange product, you're getting the orange frequency. And the more you study the attributes, then the more you can understand the potential. But how I learned was through also client feedback, not only my own experiences, but people kept telling me the same stories. Okay, so for example, with white light.
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you, like,
How
either
I would sell it or
yourself.
how I would ask?
No, actually, let's elaborate this a little differently. I'll ask my question differently. What testimonials have people shared with you? Just one on the white light.
Oh, they just love how it makes them, when people use any of our alchemy products, I find one of the biggest testimonials is that they almost can't put their thumb on why something feels different because it's a subtle shift. So when I always tell people, I'm like, take note of how you're feeling before and after using the alchemy products. You know, how are you sleeping? What's your anxiety level?
Yeah.
You know, what's the stress in your shoulders? That, you know, just if you use it before and after, or even like with our yoga studios and whatnot that we've done business with, that people say, your yoga studio feels different, but I don't quite know why. Or people who use our aura cleanser in their stores before the shifts are starting, they say, your store is so different. Like I get that kind of feedback from my customers all the time, where your store feels so different. I can't quite figure out what it is that's different than your store, than other stores. And so it's like a little je ne sais quoi that you can't quite figure out. And that's the subtlety of alchemy, is that if you don't pay attention to how you're feeling before and after, that you'll kind of miss the mark on that. So it's a subtle shift, but I know for myself, my own personal experience, when I was really learning to work with the alchemy products, there was a situation that I was going on at home with my in-laws and whatnot, and it was causing me a lot of stress. I had a knot in my gut. I had stress on my shoulders at my desk. It was consuming my thoughts. And I was just like, okay, I just need to go. And I think you told me to go use some of the Carmelites and the aura cleanser and stuff. So I sure enough, I went aura cleanse and I did a couple of different Carmelites, you know, comfort and release or whatever it was. And then what I noticed is when I went back to my desk after about 10 or 15 minutes, I was like, hang on a sec. stress in my shoulders gone, my knot's gone, my thoughts aren't being consumed the way that they were before. And that was my subtle little shift.
Yeah.
And I mentally took a note of it. And that was the first time I really remember feeling that difference, because up until then, I couldn't release the thoughts. I couldn't release the little bit of anxiety that I had in my gut about it. So
Yeah.
that's for me, that's my
Yeah.
testimonial, basically all the alchemy. But I love white light because it's got 16 different essential oils in it. And it's such a lot. You can pick up all the different notes of it, and it kind of takes me away.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in 1 second. But what you said, this is how simple it can be. If you've got one of our samplers, right? And in most of our products, when you buy a kit, you get some samplers, right? So just by spraying, for example, the white light above somebody's head and just having them close their eyes and breathe in that alchemy essence and getting them to tap into what they
Grounds
feel.
you.
Absolutely. So it's not always just about your experience, it's about the client's experience. So if they're coming in saying, you know what, I just don't know what I need. Well, here you go, white light. It's all encompassing. It's got all the frequencies in there.
Yeah.
And it's to give your whole energy an uplift.
Yeah. Balance everything
Okay.
from top to bottom.
Absolutely. And for people who are trying to attain enlightenment, this is a great product because you have to have all your energies in balance to create white light, right? So whatever the client is looking for, and that's part of, what you're going to be finding out when you're talking to your client is what is it that they're looking for help for? Instead of and I'll share another little tidbit with you. When people used to come into my first store, I remember not saying, "Hi, how are you today?" Rather, I would actually go, "Oh, if this is your first time in my store, I've got this new product and I'd love to share it with you." Okay. So I would engage in a conversation about something in my store that I thought was phenomenal. That's another way you can go about actually educating people. And then eventually people may get to some of the issues that they're looking for that you can refine what product would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I always talked about you, and some of you have heard me talk about pre-selling products before you bring them in, or getting a list of people, telling them about stuff. I know, Caitlin, I see you covering your face. We've got to start getting into the habit of telling people about things that are coming in before they even come in. You could literally be making back your money before the stuff even comes into the store or into your business. You could be selling this almost like like an Avon business or a Tupperware business where people are going to, doing home parties, and you're not even having to bring the inventory, and you've got the money before you're even bringing it in. So it's just a matter of knowing how to educate people on things, and you can bring things in for people as well. And you can have it sold before you even have to put money out for it.
Yeah. And again, there's so many ways to get to the end result. So if you're wanting that repeat business, you got to create that buzz that's going to bring people back as well. So what services are you offering? What events are you offering that will engage people to come back to you? And even if you're a private practitioner, the same thing applies, because at the end of every session I have with a client, and even if I'm just discussing something with them, first and foremost, I want to find out, on an energetic level, why are they here? Right? Like, what did you just happen to come in? Because I also will, it's funny because when I engage with people, it's like, I now know why I'm here because you just told me something that is impacting my life today. Right? Because eventually the conversation flows into something that they need support with. And this is again where you could probe people and just sort of let them know, hey, we're a holistic shop. And, if there's anything on a holistic level that you need assistance with, we've got a tool for you. And you can go into a little bit of a spiel about what you offer so it engages that conversation. Because sometimes when people come in, they have come in for a reason. They're coming to you for a reason, whether it's your mediumship skills or your ability to read tarot cards, or you've got the biopulsar, or you have products, whatever you guys are using, or doing in your business or your practice, that's the number one focus. And then from that focus, where do you get to the end result with the client and what's the next step for them?
Yeah, it's about finding their pain point. And when you can figure out what that pain point is, you're going to get a lot of information. Think about when you go to your hairdresser. You usually unload, right? It's like the hairdressers get more information than most counselors and whatnot. So, you can be that place for people, that safe place. And I like how you said, we're a holistic shop, and we know that people are coming here because they are, you know, maybe
There's
struggling.
something, yeah,
They're maybe
body
struggling,
nature.
they may be struggling emotionally, mentally, spiritually, or physically. And just want to let you know, I'm an expert in this field. And what I don't know, I have access to getting the information. So if you feel like you need to share anything on that level, so I can help you find the exact tools to support you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a beautiful way to open it up in that first 4 seconds that you have to meet with somebody. We've all take a breath. I'm going to go first because one of the other things, this is something that you can do where you can work on yourself at the same time that you're working on with your clients
Yeah.
or in your business, is setting up a feature of the week. So you can then challenge yourself to learn something by teaching something. So it's like you're
Yep.
already, it's like you're teaching on the spot, and you're learning about it at the same time. So, you know, I remember there's different things you can do. Now, if you've got a retail space, it was simply just putting down like some little colored tissue paper, or and putting something up on a box, putting a little whether it's the brochures
Yeah.
beside it, or a, you know, we've got lots of different information, like links and links and links of libraries that have got information in a picture format, like an 8 by 12 that you could put into a picture frame about a certain product. But having that feature of the week, you're obviously going to read all of the information yourself so that you can speak about that product really articulately, but also every person that comes into your business, every single person, like Susanne says, whether it's when they're coming in, they're like, oh, I just want to let you know, we've always got features of the week. Maybe there's a little special that's going on it. Maybe it's a gift with purchase. Maybe it's a buy two, get one for get it for 25% off. Have something that entices people to want to try this out. And it's only for the week. And then, and again, remember when I talked about like sharing a little secret? See, even you just turned in, right? You were just like, huh, what's she telling, right? So it's like, there's a feature of the week, like it's only for the week. It's the last day of the sale. You know, it's like there's an engagement there where people are like, what is she telling me? And it was one of the schools that I went to, because we were always going for sales training when I was in cosmetics. So even though it was cosmetics, it might not be your spiel, but it's like there was sales training all the time. Every season we were going sales training with different trainers for all the different lines. So we got so many different ways in which people sell, and the best skills. And so what I would do is I would be like, oh, can you say that again? Like, and I would literally write it out when they were
Yeah.
teaching it so that that would then begin to roll off of my tongue.
Yeah.
But that whole part about like having the feature of the week, you know, that is what got me my sales contest. That is why I was winning contest after contest, because people would come in and they would come to the till and I'm like, oh, you've got to check this stuff out. Like, we're doing a special feature. And, you know, I would tell them all about it, and I would give them the 10, you know, 3 or 4 different things of why it is that product is such a great product. So you understand a little bit about the science of the product. And I know that's something you want to touch on as well, as learning about the science of something. So it gives credibility and clout to the products that you're talking about. And there is a whole science to the color as well. So I'll let you ping pong that over to you in a moment, but really setting yourself up for that feature of the week. And whether that's something that you can do online, if you don't have a storefront, you can do this online. Now, if you don't have a means of being able to contact your customers through an email database or online, you've got to start finding yourself into one of these ways. Otherwise, you're just making it only that much more difficult for yourself to be able to reach. We are in a society now where it's so easy to reach out to people, you know, whether you get an email database, whether it's on social media. But, you know, we're past the days of, you know, always having to pick up phone calls or putting up posters around the, you know, the local shops. We can reach people so much more easily now. So if you're not doing that, find a way to start building it now, right? Just start building it. It's
Every
one at a
one of you
time.
should have a sign-up sheet where people can give you their email address.
Yeah.
Because at the very least, that's one of the things you should have, is every single client's email. And, you know, at one of the stores, or both stores actually now, we have a sign-up sheet, and it's, you know, do you want to be on our email list? Sign here.
Yeah.
Just as simple as that. And if you guys are interested in this, I can send you what I've created, because again, every single email you get is a pot of gold, because that keeps people informed of everything that you're doing. And eventually there'll be that one thing that resonates with them that they'll be coming back for. Because again, if your number one complaint is return business, you've got to ask for it too. You know, it's not so much as, oh, people should just love my store and come in. When I had my store, if I relied on just people walking by my store and coming in, it would have killed me. if you have a brick and mortar store, have a little trolley outside with, gemstones in it, little tiny gemstones that people can play with and, bring them in, or something that will engage them to come into your store. And again, if you're a private practitioner and you want to grow your business, you have to align with other community events. You can't do it alone because otherwise it's going to be very difficult for you. And sky's the limit. I mean, you can phone up almost any business and sell your services to them, because people want to have events happening. And because we have the color test, you can bring the color test into businesses. If you have the biopulsar, you can bring the biopulsar into other businesses. And if you have the biopulsar in a store, every single person that comes in, you should be letting them know you have it. I've got this incredible European device, and it actually not only reads your physical body, it reads your thoughts and your energy. We can see your living aura. And your aura does not lie. It tells us all kinds of things. And in fact, I remember in a lot of shows that I did, I actually would invite people to put their hand on the hand plate. And then we'd see the colors splash on the screen and people would see their beautiful aura and they'd go, well, what does that mean? And I go, well, that's what I charge for. Okay.
I'm looking around to see who's on here and looking at some of the questions actually. So Mary Jane, it's nice to see you on here. We haven't talked to you for a long time, but you had a really great question on here, and it was, how as an indigo do I remove the feeling of guilt when I charge for services, products, and also what color can I use to be more enthusiastic about the business side of things? So so really great question, because obviously honoring your value is super important. And I actually had this discussion yesterday. I was on a Zoom or something. I can't remember who I was hearing it from, but talking about how when things are given away for free, people have very little regard for that product and that service. So if you're not charging for something and giving a value to something, I mean, the services that you offer are invaluable. And again, when you're coming from here and you're giving people your time, your treasure, your talent, it can be any one of those things. So whether you're donating to somebody, whether you're offering your services or your connections or your talents, there's a value to that.
Mhm.
And so you need to recognize that in yourself. So how can you go about doing that? Well, one would be, let's look at your lowest color personality. I mean, you probably have got a high of the right brain energies, I'm guessing. So you've mentioned you've got the high indigo, maybe greens or oranges would be the same thing, where they feel a little bit guilty and you're in your right brain and not in your left brain. So it's needing to exercise a little bit more of the educational component, and then recognizing that there's value in what you're doing. So when you have that voice in your head, and this again, it's an exercise. It's not really something specific that you're doing that is like, oh, you're going to do this and it's going to change this, because it's really a matter of a period of time where you're going to be dropping that pebble in the water, I always say, where you're going to get that ripple effect, and eventually the ripples are going to continue to hold. But if you only do it once, the ripples will go away. You do it twice, the ripples are going to be there a little bit longer. So when I say to you, really work on that yellow and then on your red. So the red is going to be the no fear, right? So
Yeah.
you're not going to have the fear around that. But the yellow is, you're there to educate people. And when you know that you're coming from that heart-centered place of educating people, and if you don't know if you're coming from your heart-centered, like what Susanne was saying earlier, when you talk to somebody and you're actually thinking and you're actually putting your mind into your heart, you really genuinely are there for the right reasons. And this is what we're talking about. Like, you're there to serve, you're not there to take, and you want to help people. And there's a value to that. And so don't feel bad. And maybe it's just, maybe it's part of this conversation for you, is that permission to know that money is just value. It's just an exchange of energy, and that exchange of energy, you're giving out and you're getting back, and you have two hands, one for giving and one for taking, and it should be done in equal balance. Otherwise, you're going to find that you're going to start to feel like you're being taken advantage of or taken for granted. And often giving services to family and friends, sometimes that expectation can be around that too. And you might not want to be charging people that you know and you love. But again, you can offer a discount, family and friends discounts, but don't ever underestimate the value of what it is that you offer. And so you can start working with your yellow and your red. Your yellow is sunny, optimistic. And if you talk about it from a sunny disposition, where you're like, you know what, my services are not, if it's in the instance, maybe you're talking to family and friends, let's say, you know what, I normally my service is $120 an hour, but I have a friends and family discount, so I'm going to only charge you $85. You know, and I hope you'll tell all of your friends. And if you tell 5 people, I'll give you one for free. You know, so maybe you've got like a loyalty program where somebody does so many, and that could even be for outside of, you know, friends and family. But if somebody does, you know, 5 services with you, that maybe they get one free, or if they refer 5 people to you, then maybe they get something for free. You know, that's when you can, there's that added value to it, but it's not just that you're given the whole, you know, kit and caboodle away, that you're actually having them build up before they get their free service.
And remember to practice your words.
Mhm.
You know, and most phones have a recorder. I still have an old an old tape recorder, but practice your what you're saying to people and listen to what you're saying. And you'll find that, you know, a lot of times we're so hard on ourselves, but when we actually listen to what we say, we go, wow, that was nice. You know, and so it's listening to yourself and tweaking whatever it is that you want to tweak in your little spiel there.
Mhm.
Also, I ask people to dig deep because when it comes to the relationship with money, you've got to dig a little bit deeper as to, you know, how you feel about money. Okay. Because, for example, a lot of parents, they say things to us innocently, like money doesn't grow on trees. Well, everybody knows money doesn't grow on trees. What does that mean, even? You know, like money doesn't grow on trees. So what? I can't pick the money off of a tree. Like, I don't quite get that. But, you know, or you have to work hard for your money. Who said you have to work hard for your money?
Mhm.
Right? So we have to look at some of the phrases that have been said in our life and reverse that belief. So my question also to everyone is, what is your relationship with money? Because I know when I pay, for example, my massage therapist, I'm getting something of value that I appreciate. So have you paid for other people's services? And how do you feel about it? Do you appreciate their service? Absolutely. So why wouldn't people want to pay you because they appreciate your services? So where did that, you know, where did we learn the behavior that we can pay other people, but we can't have people pay us? So we have to reverse that, going, you know what? I pay for wonderful services. So I'm going to allow people to pay for my wonderful services because I know what I bring to the plate.
Mhm.
Right? So know that people want to pay you, but it's your own blockage that often resists it, saying, don't pay me because I don't have a good relationship with money. So start talking to your money, you know, and make friends with it. Right. And I also want to share with you just one more point, and it's with Angela, one of our indigo practitioners. Beautiful woman, offers a service, and she came and actually took, it was our
Mhm.
crystal light therapy class, and I remember her telling me, and I loved the way she said it. She said, Susanne, I get people all the time saying, why don't we exchange services? And then she would exchange services only to be disappointed.
Mm.
Okay, because she knew how great of a practitioner she was, and she was already having a lineup up out the door. Why would she exchange services with someone else who didn't do it? So she went, for now on, I'm telling people, or what she told me is, she said, I would tell practitioners, I'm sorry, I value my services, so I don't do exchanges. If you want my service, pay me for it. And if I want your service, I'll pay you
No,
for it.
you've got to know Angela's actually very soft spoken. So she was a little softer around the edges than that,
Well,
but it's like,
she was pretty
she's
direct
assertive.
about it, though,
She
you
actually
know.
can be. And she was actually one of the ones that got the idea from, where if you got so many referrals, you would get a session for free, or she would do the friends and family discount for, you know, the $85 versus the 120 that would normally be done. And honestly, this woman is, if she's not the top customer, she is the secondary, I think, next to Fairmont Spa. Now, Fairmont Banff Spa is, I mean, obviously, you got to think about the amount of clientele that they have coming through there. And the fact, for this person who is running a little office all by herself on the outskirts of downtown, it is not in foot traffic. This is repeat business and referrals only. She does not have a bile pulsar, but what she does have is private branding. And so for her to be either, you know, my 1 or 2 top customers, just based on the treatments that she gives, the education that she gives, and the fact that she's got products that people want to utilize, and she's just educating them on the product. She can only do so many sessions in a day.
And you know what I loved about what she said too? She would just say to somebody, you need this.
Yeah.
And that was it. She didn't go into a big explanation. It was just like if the client had something going on, and it could be something like aura cleanser. Everybody needs aura cleanser in my book,
Yeah.
so it's just something you need this.
Well, and her social media is actually, very, very simple as well. Like it's not, it doesn't, you see a lot of social media videos out there where people are getting very high tech and, it's very elaborate sort of, music and all that sort of stuff. She'll just kind of go on there and she'll be like, I just want to feature this today. This is white light and it's just a beautiful product. And I really love it because it's got 16 different essential oils. Call me if you'd like some. It's really simple. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to overly think it. It doesn't have to be
And you don't have to
complex.
overly sell it,
Yeah, exactly.
and I'm probably a bit more point blank in my, sales techniques, but I know because of the thousands upon thousands of readings I've done on the bile pulsar, I just say to people, you really need this,
Yeah.
you
But
know?
you've gained that trust and that loyalty with people because of how
Yeah,
education based you've been. You are an expert in your
yeah,
field. So people understand that when you say, it's like going to your doctor, like if your doctor tells you you need something, you're more inclined to listen to what they have to say because they know your whole background. So take the time to ask questions of your clients and get to know them and understand what their needs are. And like I said, what their pain points are, because then when you do make a recommendation, people trust you
yeah.
as being that expert that's not going to drive them in the wrong direction.
And another thing with repeat business, ask people for referrals or ask them what they can do to help you. Because that's, again, another thing we tend to miss, where if somebody really likes your services, you can actually say, if you really like my services, because, I could use some support, can you please let your family and friends know about me? Right? Because when you ask for a favor, and you can even say it like that, can I ask you for a favor?
Mhm.
Right? I could really use your help in getting my business, getting more business. So do you mind sharing with some of your family and friends about how much you enjoyed my services?
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes people don't think about those things, unless they're asked. Like I know I've referred, different practitioners because I've really enjoyed their treatment. Like there's one woman, she does this incredible lymph drainage. Geez, she pinpointed all the areas on my body that the bile pulsar did, and she
Mhm.
did it without a machine. That was pretty impressive. And she attacked them and aggressively, massaged my lymph system, and I could see the after effect on the bile pulsar. Why wouldn't I refer her? I
100%.
thought she was awesome.
Yeah.
So ask people for referrals.
So I want to just do a little recap, and these are a couple of notes that you can write down for yourself in that you'll want to take down. So when it comes back to the yellow, you're going to analyze what needs to be done. You're going to, and I want to just mention about like, is there people out there on here that they got stores, or are they mostly individual businesses? If you've got a store, can you put your hand up there for me? We got, yeah, Caitlin, of course. Okay. All right, but most of you are individual one-offs, so I'll try and direct it that way then. Um, Also, like you want to make sure you've got promotions happening. You want to gain loyalty, so have a loyalty program with your customers. Okay. If you're in a store, re-merchandising things. If you're at a trade event, moving things around, it keeps things exciting. And remember, and I think you've had this before as well, like you move something around in a location and somebody goes, oh, you've got something new. And it could have been something from the back of the store on the bottom shelf. And you sit there and it's just like, I'd move it around and I always have an appreciation for my own work. If I'm decorating or whatever, and I'm like, I look at it and I sit there like, oh, what have you got that's new over here? So just always creating something new, keeping things clean and organized too, because that's going into your blue energy, keeping things organized, faced. Again, that cleanliness in the store is going to help to have a place where people feel like it's well looked after. And then, of course, with your red, every single customer, get them on that checklist when they come in the door, get your email addresses, get them to sign onto your social media. If maybe you have a little discount that you offer to people where you say, if you actually follow, like, and share my most recent post and you get onto my social media, you're following me, you can get 5% off of your purchase if they're coming in store, or whether it's just, when you're seeing them at an event. Telling them about your loyalty programs. Buy so many, get something free. So many referrals, get something free. Okay. Mention the feature of the week and what's new. Again, when people come in every single time, you don't want to miss this mark. That's your new engagement. You're not just saying, hi, how are you today? Because you're going to lose your customers with that. 4 seconds to make a good impression. You tell them about what the feature of the week is. You tell them about what's new, what's coming in, what kind of event you've got going on.
And you can base it on other semantics too, right? You could base it on the holiday, right? Or even color energy. We talk about, each day being a different color. Well, also every month is also a different color. And we talked about that in the astrology class. So right now we're in April. So that is a number 4
Green.
month. So that's the green energy. Or in astrology, it's the first month, which is the red energy. So either or, you can, choose the path you want to go down and then sort of elaborate on that. Or even just specialty things like you may want to put together like a protection kit or a prosperity kit, put something together with the different things that you have. Now, Caitlin, you're shaking your head. No, why? Well, it didn't work for you. Okay. Now you got to remember, just because you tried something once doesn't mean that it won't work down the road. When I had my store, I kept reinventing the same thing over and over and over again until I got it right. Right. And sometimes it could be the way you're promoting it that doesn't hit home with people. And I spent thousands of dollars actually on learning marketing. And I remember in this course that I took, they talked about, 3 dangers of in a home that have infants. Number 1, I'm pointing to the outlets, because kids like to stick their fingers in outlets. So as a parent, you have a young one, you want to put a plastic mold in there so the kid can't put their finger in the outlet. The number 2 cause of problems in the home was any cleaning products that kids could get at. So they were talking about, locking them under lock and key. So that way, the kid can't get at anything that they could drink or whatever. Number 3, buy Volvo. It was a Volvo commercial. Okay. But the point is sometimes what you have to do is you have to educate people on why they want to buy a product. It's one thing to have a prosperity kit, but maybe it's another thing in the way you promote it, right? So you have to think, why would somebody want a prosperity kit? And is it a specific prosperity kit? Need more love in your life? Here's a kit. You want more money? Here's a kit. And I could tell you stories about this, in regards to the energy aspect of it, because again, there's a lot of kits that are out there, but if the colors are cross-contaminated, they're not going to actually be successful kits. And you got to get people to understand, if you're selling an abundance kit, saying to them, yeah, you know what, let me know how it goes for you. And you got to document what was abundant in your life after using that kit. Because sometimes people also put constraints on what abundance is, right? Where maybe abundance can come in many different forms.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Another idea I had too for getting people to follow you on social media is that we've got our little mini gemstones. You could give away like a free gemstone if somebody follows you on social media and signs up for your email list. They can pick a stone. I mean, it's like you're charging, it's a 99-cent cost to you, but now you've literally got this information that might have them coming back to your store over and over again every time you've got something new, or you've got a new promotion or a new event going on, where you're going to be next at your next event. And that's how you're going to get building your loyalty, again, because you're educating. When something new comes in, you're going to give them education information because we give it to you. You're going to be able to pass that on. And then just like Susanne was saying, is asking for customer support, and don't dwell on negativity. And it's okay to mention, I mean, this is actually something I had as a little bit of a note, but okay to mention that the last 4 years have been harder than normal for your business, and that you're working hard to gain community support, and you're sharing posts. So you're sharing with your customers that things have been harder over the last 4 years. Like we're all trying to get our businesses back and going again, right? So it's like, don't be afraid to, that's your being transparent, and you're showing without going, you don't want to go heavy into the negativity on it by any means, but by just letting people know, like, hey, we really appreciate community support. We really appreciate your repeat business. We're trying to get our business going again. And it's coming from that positive aspect of things, where you're trying to say, hey, I'm asking for your support. things have been a little bit hard over the last couple of years. I've had that conversation with many people here on the screen. So it's like, how can you harness that? And people, that does affect people's
Yeah.
emotions as well. You know, when you ask for something because you know that you're trying to do something good of service, and you would really appreciate that coming back in return.
I know when I'm in the store, I actually say to people, thank you for supporting a
Mhm.
community business, a local business, because I think that's really important that we keep, we keep the money in our own backyard, because obviously it helps to support the community when we support
Yeah.
community businesses. So always, be in gratitude of people's, loyalty as well, because that will make them want to come back too.
And I'm just guessing that I don't think anybody on here has any commercials for their business, do they? Probably not. So we need to rely on the resources that we have, and that's repeat business, referrals, harnessing those people, really nurturing your regular customers as well, because that's where you're going to get your repeat business from. So treat them like they're gold. You know, there's nothing that frustrates me more is like when you see some of these bank commercials where they're like, oh, for our new clients, we offer this and this and this and this, and it's like, hello, what about me over here that's been with banking with you since I was 14? So it's
Yeah.
like, don't forget to really look after your existing customers, because that is where, they're going to be like, hey, I love so and so down the street, or, her event here, take her business card. That's where you really want to be focusing on. And so if you don't have a social media platform, I'm not going to say get it, because I also get and understand that there are blessings and curses that come with that. But if you don't have it, your hustle is going to be a lot harder and a lot more intense. So you'll need to find other ways to be able to get in touch with people. And the email list is
A
the best way to
must,
do,
no
for
matter
sure.
what. Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually saw here too, Mary, you had made a comment, and I love what you've said here, is that just going back to, paying people and paying your friends. And she says, my friends and I love paying each other. So a lot
Yeah.
of times too, Mary Jane, this would pertain to you, is that, that feeling of, asking for that service, is that there are some people that's in your own head, because there are some people, don't let your limitations get in the way of how other people actually feel about that. So as long as you're putting it out there and you're setting that boundary for yourself, there are people who genuinely would really love to pay you for your services.
Yeah.
So just to add to that little piece.
And you could do special events like donation days and things like that,
Yeah.
because that's something I've offered at the store, where it's a donation day. Although on my sign it does say a minimum,
Mhm.
because again, I have to still have that integrity of value, but I let people donate what they want. And I remember one time I was doing a show, and it was hilarious because this guy was bragging about how much money he had. And at the end I went, okay, great. Now, because you've just told me about how much money you have, I expect that you'll buy a couple $100 worth of product.
Mhm.
And he did. He
Yeah.
had the money, so why not? And the reason why I did that, because I took a few extra minutes, and I actually said that to him, because we've taken extra time here today.
I hope that you'll purchase some products from me today as well. Yeah.
And like I said, he ended up buying a couple $100. And I do know too that I can't judge how much money people have. So
Mhm.
sometimes I may be thinking, because of the way the person's dressed, and I always think about, I went into this really ritzy store once, and I could see the two women that were in the store kind of looked up and down and made a judgment.
Mhm.
Sort of like Pretty Woman,
Mhm.
right? And I just walked around the store and I walked out, because there was no way I was going to be paying that amount of money for things.
Mhm.
But nonetheless, I now, because of that, I learned, don't judge people by the cover.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how much money
100%.
they have, or how much they're willing to invest in their own spiritual growth or their own wellness. Because I also, one of your customers also one time said, you can't put a price on chemotherapy.
Mm.
And I love that. And it's kind of an exaggeration, but once you're ill, it costs a lot. If you can do things
To
to
try and
keep
turn
your
it around.
wellness at this time, then that has a lot to do with our, like the way we are energetically is so important, that we're always balancing our body, mind, and spirit, because we already know that when we let things eat away at us over time, it can really cause a lot of health issues down the road. And, we're better off spending a little bit of money today on our own wellness. So, I want people to understand that, you know, we have to spend a bit of money to get to where we want to go, but
Yeah.
I'd rather do it today than at the end of, you know, at the end of my life, not having spent the money to be well today.
Well, and I'm going to contradict myself in one area because there's something that you triggered, and this is again our customer Angela, and something that she does that I just think is so beautifully done. And again, for those of you that are having a hard time, you know, asking for money in certain areas, I think that this is a really beautiful way to put it out because it almost answers to one, but still allows you to give to the other. And I do think that there's a great importance in giving, and especially if you're somebody who has services, or you're doing readings, that you can actually offer for free when somebody is not able to, is genuinely not able to afford, but they're in a critical health situation.
Yeah.
So Angela actually does, I think, once a week where she does pro bono work,
Yeah.
and she sets up just for Wednesdays where she's doing pro bono work. And so you can tell friends and family that you reserve doing pro bono work for those that are in critical care, that really require your services when you know, they're in financial despair and whatnot. So that way you are still giving out to community. If you feel that that's something you want to do, I do feel like there's an importance in that. And I think that comes back tenfold. And I've seen that in Angela's business where, you know, she does put out something, but it's not just to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. And it's not just for people who are looking to take advantage or to just get the deal. It's for people who are genuinely in a position where she's like, you know what, let me help you out. I would love to, I'd love to help you start on your healing journey, and you know, let's get started.
Some of our practitioners at Gaia, they actually have a sliding scale for that.
Mm.
So it's a conversation you have with people in regards to, can you afford the full rate, or do you have some challenges? Right? Because again, there's nothing wrong.
You don't want to turn people away who are genuinely requiring your services and your support, and you never know how that might turn out as something else down the road.
Yeah. Another thing I do in a lot of my classes is I have a donation day. Not a donation day, but a donation where I put on there, you know, please bring a couple dollars for a donation. And then I pull that money and it goes towards somebody who's needy, because we've had some people that have actually had some struggles at the store that we've actually pulled money and put it together to give to that person because they needed something.
Yeah, nice.
So, you know, again, there's other things that you can do. But I did want to go back to what I said initially, that statistically, the businesses that actually educate the clients will get the client loyalty. That's really important, that you're educating people continuously. So this way they feel that you're the cutting edge person to give them the best news. You know what I mean? Because if you're saying, well, you know what, because I've been studying energy medicine and, you know, we know about the body, mind, and spirit connection, I'd like to share a couple of tidbits with you in regards to what I've learned, which is sort of cutting edge, right? So this way people understand you're at the tip of understanding things, because we always talk about energy medicine. So here's another little tidbit. Introduce people to the fact that everything in the universe is color coded. So therefore, when we talk about energy medicine, we're actually talking about the different frequencies that stimulate our different endocrine glands, or as medical doctors will call them, neural plexus centers, right? So we need this different color nutrition to actually support our body's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs. So have a little script that you can indicate to people so they understand the value of what it is that you're selling. Because when it comes to energy tools, most people don't get that connection. And to understand things like crystals create piezoelectricity, and that piezoelectricity is a frequency. This is why different colored crystals, well, we can activate crystals in different ways, right? And hitting them together is one way, but light activates crystals, and even voice, like sound, activates crystals, because sound reverberates, right? So when it hits a crystal, it will actually trigger the crystal to actually vibrate at a frequency. But because everything is color coded, it's that frequency medicine that we need. So if people are coming into your store, whatever they say is the issue, make the color attachment to it. Then you have the color solution for them. And then you have the variety of tools that they can use to help with their journey. Does that make sense? Okay. And because we're recording this gives you the capability of, listening to this again and writing out the script that you feel that you want to repeat to individuals to give them the education. Because I don't deviate from my scripts. I have my certain scripts that I recite. Now, today is a little different because it's more organic in nature. But when people come to me for biopulsar readings or whatever it is, I have a script prepared that I'm indicating to them.
Mhm.
Okay, so you have to prepare it, put it in writing, memorize those words.
And here's something else I'd like to get you to write down as well. This actually came from a seminar that I went to for Brian Tracy, and very costly seminar. So this is a little nugget out of it. And this is where, again, I came out with the color coding on it. But decide exactly what you want and what it is that you want to do or achieve. Okay, that's the first thing. And you got to be specific. And then you're going to write it down. And then you're going to set a deadline. Okay. And then you're going to make a list of all the things that can be done to achieve this goal. You may only use 20% of it, but write it all down. That's when I've said to you, write down like a list of 20, because the first 5 or 10 are easy, but when you get to that 15 or 20, the next 15 or 20, it's a lot more complex. You start getting more creative. So you may only use 20% of it, but write it all down, even if it feels extreme. And then the next thing you're going to do is organize this list by priority. What seems to be the easiest or most likely way for you to get to your goal? And certainly if you start with the easier, smaller things, it's going to be,
Check.
you've got a few things knocked off your list, and then you're going to start to get that momentum. Okay. And then number 6 is take action now. And then the 7th thing is do something every day towards achieving your goal. So then when you look at that list, the first thing on the list, decide exactly what you want, yellow. All the other things, write down, set a deadline, make a list, organize that list by priority, is all blue. And then your last 2 things, take action now and do something every day towards achieving your goal, is your red. Okay. And I love this statement, in order for you to be the best, you have to commit to being in the top 10%, and then bring up your weakest key skill. These were Brian Tracy's words. Okay. So when we're talking about your weakest color energy, it's the same thing, bringing up your weakest key skill, and ask yourself what one skill will be to help me the most to double my business and increase my sales. To be something you have never been before, you must do something you have never done before. So you've got to do some new things, try some things that are outside of your comfort zone. I've had the privilege of working with many of you for years and years. Caitlin, I've, talking with you, with your customers over the last little while. I mean, as I'm doing FaceTime with you over the phone, as we're doing some biopulsar challenges and questions, this is how some of my customers have become my best customers, because when they have an issue on hand, even when the customer's right there. This was Brandy, who used to work with us at a PharmaSafe. She used to be one of our biggest stores. They have gone down now because they don't have somebody asking all the questions now. But Angela, just people who call and utilize us. That's what we're here for, is to be able to help you guys be successful and hold your hand through this process. They'll call and they'll be like, I've got a customer. What's the best product for this? I mean, Angela sent me an email today. She goes, do you think Holy Grail is the best product for somebody who's dealing with scarring? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And you can add this to it if you decide that you want to really ramp it up.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to call us and utilize us, so that you can then get to that point where this is just rolling off of your tongue. And Angela's never going to have to ask me that question again now, right? Because she's already got that confirmation. So, just please utilize us as best you can, and, keep asking your customers. Like I said, Caitlin, when I'm on the phone with you, I'm seeing you acknowledging new customers as they're walking through the door, and, oh, I'm just doing some consultations. I'm giving you your first 5-minute reading for free. And then if you want to, buy on top of it, like, you're really, really engaging. Keep doing that, because that's one thing that I see that you're doing that really is going to continue to work for you. The business will come. It's going to come one at a time. I know it's a little bit slower going sometimes, because we are coming out of, a deficit in around the world right now. So it's like, we've got to start to do these little steps that are moving us forward in a positive direction, and it will pay off. So keep staying the course. Okay.
Yeah. And remember that people will pay for things that feel good, and I like to believe that color energy products make people feel good. I certainly know when I wake up in the morning and I'm using one of our oils and essences, it's a great way to start my day. It sets me up for success. and try to educate your clients, even if it's, a quick little Zoom, event like we've done here
Mhm.
today. Start by doing even some little free things, because even what you do for free can end up
Mhm.
actually building your business. Because again, I know recently we had our anniversary at Gaia, and so we did all these free events, but it led to more events.
Yeah.
People booking services, people buying product, right?
Yeah. So let's touch base on some of our next courses though, and then we've got a course giveaway after that too. So
Yeah, and I did another poll too, because again, I'm
yeah.
just always interested in hearing from everyone as to where.
Now, Mary was asking about the cross contamination. Can you just quickly elaborate on that? Because I know
Sure.
exactly what she's talking about.
Yeah. So I always talk a lot about, just bear with me a second here, but I always talk a lot about cross-contamination, because I think one of the things that has happened here, I don't know why my poll's not coming up. Share results. Okay, maybe I have to share results. Sorry, guys, I'll just get rid of this because I want the other poll to come up. Can't do it. Okay. Oh, maybe
there you go.
there. Okay. Upcoming courses. So just to highlight anything that you might be interested in. Oh, why is that not coming back?
You have to push here.
Oh, okay.
So I can talk about the cross contamination.
Okay.
Were you talking about the cross contamination of the oils and the blends?
Well,
and
it's
colors?
about the
Yeah.
frequency, right? Because a lot of times, well, actually, I'll just go with it.
Yeah, go.
But a lot of times, what I see out on the market when people talk about like a specific chakra blend, I get upset, because when I look at the ingredients, I see that they have different frequencies in there. Like a common thing that I see is orange in an indigo blend, or sandalwood in a crown chakra blend. Well, I'm sorry, sandalwood is red energy. It comes from the bark. It's red in frequency. If you put a red oil in a violet or indigo blend, it's not going to transmute the
Mixing
same
paint
frequency.
colors.
Absolutely. And, so you have to understand your energy medicine, and you have to understand alchemy. And this is one of the things that color energy does really well, is we keep everything as pure can be. Now, there are a few little things that sometimes we modify, like our chi energy has a splash of orange in it, because we want it to
She
start out.
is a red predominant oil.
Absolutely. It's got a lot of red oils in it, but we want to move the energy up the spine. So we've ignited it by putting a little orange in. It's the same thing with the digest and detox. We put a splash of red pepper in it to create
Black
the heat.
pepper.
What did I say?
Red pepper.
Black pepper.
Yeah, which is the red oil.
Yeah. But we put black pepper in our digest and detox because we need that little
Fire
spark of
energy.
fire
Mhm.
to ignite the formula. But again, and back in the day when I did a lot of product testing, I'd have people come in and I'd say, bring in the products that you want to test on the biopulsar to see what's working for you. And I had people bringing in other companies' products that we sold, but we sold differently, because obviously we work with the energy component, and our product superseded every other product that people would bring in, because they cross-contaminated the frequencies, which is going to lower the vibration. And it's not going to get to where you need to go, because you need to have the totality of that energy. It's kind of like an affirmation. If you say, I'd like to be abundant, and I'd like a loving relationship, and I'd like to, be more organized. Well, that's three different colors in that affirmation. So how are you supposed to accomplish it when you're mixing the signals? Intentions should be clear. Medicine should be, clear, because you want things to work on that vibratory level in its best capability. And by actually adding layers of the same vibration will intensify the programming, versus by adding layers, it can actually.
There's a great example that you did in when Susanne, when she does the biopulsar course, she does a before and after, not in the course, but you have pictures of a before and after when you've been teaching all day or been at work all day, and then going home and having a green color bath. And the difference in the before and after of the color bath is like, it's night and day. Like, you've got this beautiful green aura, which is where we're wanting our energies to be, is more in the green and turquoise and blue states. Now, the thing is, though, is if you were to take that green bath to another level, and you were to add in some eucalyptus eucalyptus oil, maybe you're eating green grapes or kiwi, you've got sounds of nature
green
cooing in
candle.
the sounds of nature cooing in the background, a green candle, and you're sitting there affirming to yourself, I'm patient, I'm kind, I'm understanding, I'm forgiving. Well, you've just now compounded that 100-fold, with that green treatment, and how much you fed your heart energy with the focus and the intention of just working on that one frequency. And then go ahead and work on your relationship stuff tomorrow and your business stuff the next
Whatever,
day,
yeah.
or you can even work on it throughout the courses of the day too, because we have different, like you were saying earlier, like the
we
colors.
need our different energies daily. Like in the
Yeah.
morning, we often need red just to get
Just to get it
grounded,
going.
just to get going, just to get motivated, right? And then maybe if later on you're doing accounting, you bring in the blue energy because that's the optimal energy for that.
Yeah.
So you need to actually be changeable, right? And be able to then use what we want. But I'll share with you just in a nutshell, because this is true with 80% of people being low in the root chakra, that if anybody has any physical illness, that indicates that their physical layer around their aura, which is the one closest to their physical body, is damaged. Bottom line is, if anybody has a physical symptom, use red. And that probably is 80% of the population have physical problems.
Mhm.
So this is one of the reasons why we need that red energy. So start people on a program of rebuilding their red, getting their confidence up, getting their health stronger, right? Feeding their body the red frequency that is necessary for them to gain strength emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. Because again, you could be very high in the upper chakras, but if you're not grounded in living life, you're going to have psychotic problems. So you need to make sure that you're first and foremost in your physical body. Then you could take people to the next color, right? But if people are coming and complaining of anything on a health level, simply make it simple. Recommend red.
So let's do a quick little rundown of the courses
Yeah.
that we've got coming up, and then we're going to do our course draw. So this week we've actually got a couple of spots left for crystal light therapy.
Yeah.
And that is working with the piezoelectric charge of crystals and aromatherapy and alchemy and tonating with your voice. It's a beautiful course. If you are in the area, we would love to have you come and join us. And that's on the 17th, 18th, and 19th. Is that right?
So
Yeah,
Wednesday,
Thursday,
Thursday,
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah. So I've got 1 or 2 spots left for that if you're interested. And then we've got chakra balancing online seminar, much like what you're seeing here, but more specifically working with oils and crystals, and working on balancing your own energies. And that's going to be on the May 7th. And I'll be away at that time. So, but that course is only $49. And then we've got a repeat of our astrology, numerology, color class. So it's really bringing these 3 components together. And this has been a really, really popular class. I think we did 3 of these classes back to back, and now we're starting to get more people are interested again. So they're wanting to understand, how does astrology language match with the color language, match with the numerology language, because there are similarities throughout, and it's like these different puzzle pieces that all join together beautifully. And so that class is $128 if you are purchasing the class. So the class itself is actually $49. If you are wanting to get the teacher's program, it's $49. And if you need a personality test, it's $30. So altogether it would be $128. But if you want to just join us for the class, it's only just $49 as well. And again, that one is on June 5th, and that's a 3 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. Do you want to touch on the masterclass? When's the next masterclass coming on?
So the next
It's not till
masterclass, will be happening in the fall. So it'll start in October and run, so the first Wednesday of October, and it'll run to November 20th. And that's a very valuable course because of the fact it teaches you the foundation of color, but also more about the color personality aspect of it.
This class is just scratching the surface of how much deeper we get into the color personality aspect. And so you really start to analyze your own personality.
And I think a lot of people that have joined us today have actually participated in that class.
Yeah.
So,
and if you've participated in any of our classes before and you want to do a redo, we do actually have 50% off for second time around. So if that's something you'd like to reignite again, then, we'd love to have you back. And then, so I think that's about it. We've got,
well, no, actually
no?
it's not. And
What?
that's why I was trying to get the friggin' poll up, but,
Okay.
so yeah, on May 23rd, I've got it planned to do a free biopulsar class. So
Oh,
that's
good.
for all my biopulsar
What
people.
day is that?
Don't know. It's just May 23rd. That's all I can tell
May
you.
23rd,
Could
okay.
be a Thursday, but don't take my word on that one. But it's May 23rd, so pencil that in. Okay. And then I'm also going to be doing the organ language class as well. And I think I've slated that for September. So we'll send out a blast just to reiterate all the course dates, because I have slated a few for the fall time. So I've got the organ class repeating, and there's a few other things that are coming up, but like I said, now I can't post the polls, so I don't remember
Okay.
everything offhand.
Well, we can always send it to them afterwards.
Yeah.
And I have a favor to ask everybody. Can you please go on to Instagram? Can you go on to Facebook if you have it? And can you please like and share our stuff? We need help with our social media a little bit. We need our loyal and loving customers to help us get the word out about our products. And then also, if you do actually happen to share the love and you want to tell other businesses, maybe you guys know other businesses that are across the country. And I'm not talking about somebody who's right in your neighborhood, because obviously you don't want to have an overlap, but sometimes you know people who've got similar businesses to yourself. And if they end up purchasing from us, we like to share the love back, and we give a 10% kickback, 10% off of your next order on your future purchases if somebody results in a sale that you've referred over to us. So we really appreciate that. And, we want you to share the love, and we want to share the love in return. So, and then have you got the list of names there that we can do?
Yeah, I'm just going to go up and down, and then you can just pick one. How's that?
Perfect. And so this is going to be for the chakra balancing course that's coming up on May 7th. And that's at 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific time. It's a $50 value. Okay, so I'm just going to rub my finger. Oh, you want me to go this way?
Yeah, just point.
Okay.
Okay, just put your finger on the screen.
Right there.
No.
Oh, that's
That's
the first
me.
one. Oh, that's you. The first one at the top. No, Suzanne's she'll be there. Okay, next one. Okay. There, how's that?
Okay, Rhonda Reef.
Rhonda, you've won the class to come on May the 7th. So, and then other than that, did anybody have any other questions? We can open up the mics here. If anybody has anything that they'd like to say, we'd love to hear your voices too.
And any questions we
Yep,
didn't
we've got
get to answer, then
Brenda's got a question there.
perfect.
Can we just click onto her?
Where are you, Brenda?
Just unmute.
Oh,
Unmute
there
your
you go.
microphone there,
Yeah,
Brenda. There you go.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Perfect. Go ahead and ask your question, Brenda.
This has been a really great class, so thank you too. It's been really informative, so I appreciate that. My question is more, I took the color astrology numerology class, which I'm going to be teaching. I got the teacher's one as well.
Perfect.
So I'm going to be teaching that in person, but my question is, because I don't have an inventory of all the products, how do you get people interested in? So I'm charging like a fee for the course, but then after it's like, well, for an additional cost, and it's like, well, why wouldn't you put all that together? That's just my ego talking. But how do you promote things after the course is done?
I got this.
I got it too.
So there's two things. I mean, obviously one is that you can have a little bit of an inventory. Certainly when you have inventory there, you are more likely to gain that sale right away. That said, if you don't have the inventory, much like I said, like about the, the Tupperware or the Avon parties or whatever, the home party style, is that you can have kits set up. So you really want to take the thinking process out of the equation for people. So you want to have, maybe you have a red spiritual spray, a red color bath, a red chakra blend, and a red gemstone and a red bracelet. So whatever the course is that you're working on for the day, or whatever your package is, maybe it's like aura cleanser and white light for balancing if you're just doing an overall balancing course and a set of 7 gemstones. Whatever it is that your course is featured towards, have the pricing already laid out so they don't even have to think about it. If they purchase this kit, you will order it in for them. They can save maybe 5% or 10%, but you get their payment up front. You do not wait until the products come in, because sometimes people don't always commit. So you want to get that payment up front. And that's how you would do it, as like I said, like a Tupperware party, you get the payment up front. And then another great way to be able to get that referral is that when you are doing like home parties like that, in that sort of instance, is that if you offer for somebody else to do a home party, that they would then get, say, 25% off of their their purchases. So whoever the host of the home is or the host of the party is, that they could then get a discount. And that's how you start to get, the next meeting and the next meeting. So if you can get a couple of appointments for your next meeting, then they would get a nice hefty discount for having their own party. But they have to have a minimum of, say, 5 people at that event. So that would be the easiest way to do it, is just make sure you've got your list of products, you've got the cost out. There is a retail price list that we have. It's not super up to date, but for the most part, I would say 90% of the products are pretty close to a double markup on all of them. There might be a few things that maybe only 40% markup, but most of the products are a double markup. So you could actually provide that retail price list. I'd be happy to send it to you. And then that way your customers can look at it. And if there's anything they would like to add over and above that, it's a perfect opportunity for them to do so, so that way you're not just minimizing your sales to whatever your feature of your class of the day is. Does that help?
So yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I was just gonna, either you're offering it without product or you're offering it with product. And if they get it with the product, then you have the perceived value. You always have to have the perceived value. So for example, with this class, Danielle and I, our time and effort, this is like $100 program that you've just gotten. Okay. So you have to have that perceived value. We didn't put a price on it, but in a lot of my classes, I always have that perceived value. So people can see what they're paying, but what the value is.
Yeah.
And depending on the kind of home party, because I used to do a lot of biopulsar home parties with my family and friends. I loved that, so it came with a little bit of a class. Everybody got their aura scan, but the product sales were always incredible. So that's a nice way to actually do it, is, have those add-on products. But I remember one of my biopulsar owners recently telling me she used to sell everything separate when she did any kind of class. And then she saw that people weren't always spending the money after. So she automatically put the product into the class.
Mhm.
And again, amp up the value. People don't know, right? Because if you have a $20 product package, that might be your cost. Well, the perceived value can be $40 to $50. And then maybe the class is perceived value $50, but as a bundle, they're paying,
Your products and
69 or
services.
79. So they're getting that discount. So there always has to be the perceived value, the value of your cost, and then what you're actually, selling it for.
Great question, Brenda. Thank you.
Just one more question. The package that you put together after that course, is that a package that still stands, or was that just for the participants that took your course?
Well, it's one of the things that I initially did. And then again, sky's the limit, because, you can add to that, right? So you can create your own package. We just did these kits for you as well. So we have some pre-done kits. In the manual that you're talking about, there was that one, I think 1 or 2 kits that were listed. But it's whatever you want, because based on what your focus or what you're comfortable promoting. Right? So just put together your own package, or you can buy one of our pre-done packages.
But don't get stuck in your own belief system, because this is where I said, like, back in the cosmetic days, and I remember my first sale, and it was like the skincare line, and they told you, like, you don't stop selling unless somebody says, it's not about being pushy, but your own belief is that maybe you would only buy 1 or 2 products, but for somebody else that's, in this family of products, you show them until they say stop. Obviously, respectfully, you've got to look at what a customer's boundaries are, but your boundaries might be different than a customer's boundaries. So continue to show things, continue to educate them, because somebody might be like, you know what, I want the whole kit and caboodle. I need as many tools as I can get, because I really am serious about making a shift, or, their financial situation might be different than, somebody next to you. So don't be afraid to show lots of products. Your customers will tell you when it's enough.
And they'll come back when they have maybe allotted money in their budget that they're ready to buy more products. Because if you introduced a bunch of products, but maybe today they only wanted to spend $40, then they may come
Plant the
back.
seeds.
Yeah, absolutely, to get more products. Because I see that all the time in the store where people go, oh, Suzanne, not only did I buy your red blend, but I came back and I bought this or that or the other things that I recommended, right? So,
And that's a good way for you to, again, as a technique for not coming across as a pushy salesperson. Cause sometimes people will be like, no, I think I've got enough. You get the social cue from them when they're like, yeah, no, okay, I think it's, I'm like, you know what? I totally get it. I'm just planting seeds because I want you to know for next time, that this is something that's available to you if you decide you want to try it down the road. Like, yeah, no pressure at all. So again, it's that coming off the gas pedal a little bit and knowing when to read those social cues so that it's not coming across like you're trying to push. You're just trying to find where that boundary is. And then when that customer lets it up, then just go, yeah, no problem. Maybe you can think about it for next time. We can jot it down for you. And, it's another great tool. Or maybe something came up that you're like, maybe this one's more of a priority than that one. Then this gives you the opportunity to switch up, which product might be more suited for them. Right. So, yeah, hopefully that
And
helps.
if you've ever gone to a Tupperware party, I
Mhm.
mean, this is what you're trying to mimic, because I know I've been to an abundance
Yes.
of
Yes.
several Tupperware parties. So they show you the mainstay, and then they show you also, we have this,
Yeah.
right? So you can have your basic package, and then you can have, what your additional packages
Or if you buy
are.
over so much, then there's like a little discounts if you're buying more than over
Exactly,
above.
and so try to think of the way you can layer things. And again, you don't have to have everything there, because I just know
Mhm.
if the rules are laid out in front where it says, if you order anything special, then it will be 2 to 3 weeks before you'll receive it. Okay, but that also brings people back, and then that might entice you to, again, go to the next level of information with them, right?
Good.
Yeah.
Any other
Awesome. Thank you.
questions?
Yeah, you're welcome.
We're good? Yep, go
No,
ahead.
I have a question. How you guys doing?
Brian.
Thanks so much for the class. Hey,
Oh, thanks for coming.
I'm excited about the chakra balancing class next week. And I wanted to ask, after we do the session with client, if we do a before and after with the biopulsar, is it going to show an increase or balance of their chakras?
Absolutely. And with
Okay.
some people, you're going to see a dramatic change. And with some people, because you got to remember, the more biopulsar readings you do, the more you may recognize certain auras are harder to change.
Mhm.
And that goes also into different concept philosophies like Ayurvedic medicine. When you have a kapha, their aura will be predominantly in that turquoise to blue range, usually more on that cyan blue range. Those are the auras that are really hard to change. Okay.
Okay.
Because they're already in a state of balance. So therefore, and whether it's natural, whether it's drug induced, or whether they have a lot of control, it could be a number of things, but nonetheless, each person will respond accordingly. I love it when I see those dramatic changes. And if I'm doing a class, that's the one I always point out. Oh, look at this one. And I'll get so excited and say, look at how much this one's changed. We could see that there was a lot of imbalance, and now we can see how much more balance there is. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Now I'm looking forward to the class then. I'm going to sign up.
Awesome.
Good. So that one's on, not next week, it's on May 7th.
May 7th. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a couple weeks.
I'll be there.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Anybody else? All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap. We went a little bit over today, so thanks for sticking around with us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time, and have a very, very blessed day. Much appreciate everybody for
Absolutely.
being here.